Tonight, Superman finally sees the end of Savage Dawn, and the moral is that punching is bad, I guess. Poison Ivy becomes a new mother and abandons her children not once but twice over the span of 24 hours. And Legends of Tomorrow is an 80-page book specifically designed by DC to ruin my daily schedule. Thanks for that, DC. All that and more tonight on the Not-So-New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 237 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and it's a hell of a week. It is. Oh boy. You know, I built this show and I built this show knowing exactly what I was getting into. I mean, I'm doing this all 10 years after the fact. I know all the comics I'm covering. I know when they come out. I know everything about that sort of stuff. And yet, here, practically on the finish line, practically staring down the final goal, I stumble. Not fall, not a full trip, just a little, just that thing that shakes you out of sleeping, kicks you out of your dream, and that is because of the book Legends of Tomorrow. Now, let me just real quick get all the books out of the way for the people who are, for whatever reason, unable to check the description or look at the screen. We have, coming out this week in kind of alphabetical order, Black Canary, Dr. Fate, Green Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Martian Manhunter, Poison Ivy, Cycle of Life and Death, Robin, Son of Batman, Sinestro, Superman/Wonder Woman, Titans Hunt, and our weekly series, Batman and Robin Eternal. So, Legends of Tomorrow, what is that? Well, it is an anthology book. It is a book that consists of multiple stories, all being told by different writers, different artists. It consists of Firestorm, Metamorpho, Sugar and Spike, and Metal Men, in that order, 4 different stories. Now, for any other anthology book, it would be a thing of like, oh, you know, the whole book is maybe like 30 pages long. So each one is only half a story. It's only 10 pages. So I can just zoom right through that. No. Legends of Tomorrow is a $7.99 book. It has 4 full-size stories in it. And all that stuff I said about the beginning of me being prepared on how I'm going to handle backup stories and how I'm going to handle this and that and the other thing, I was not prepared for this. I have no idea how I was supposed to handle this. So I said at the end of last episode I would pull a miracle out of my ass and sort of figure out exactly how I'm going to do that. And I think I did. And the answer is, I'm treating each of the stories like their own book. I'm going to be doing all 4 of them back to back to back to back, so be ready for that. But I'm going to have a little, you know, my musical interlude thing, the thing that allows me to transition between comics. I'm doing one of those between each and every story. It's just going to work out better in the long run, especially when I have to do 4 issues of them back to back to back in the end game of this show. So just... look, I don't like it any more than you. It's how we're having to do it. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here for 40 minutes with an unbroken, just blurting out words at you. And frankly, I don't want to do that. So that's what's coming up. Also, we have the finale of the Savage Dawn stuff over in the Superman books. I'm going to lead off the show with those. So just stick around. You'll see how that goes off. And yeah, nothing else really requires that big of an attention. So let's get into it. Start with Superman and then go into a very heavy period of Legends of Tomorrow. Superman Wonder Woman number 27, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Cliff Richards. So last issue, I think, was Action Comics 50. He got his powers back. He went in, started zooming around. It was a whole thing. This issue... just kind of a bridging middle bit here. We see Superman is fighting against the children of Vandal Savage, who have all been super powered up by the comet and being close proximity to it. Wonder Woman, Stargirl, Batman, and Steel join him, and that's Jim Gordon Batman. And this is literally like 4 or 5 pages in a row of just double page spreads, big fight scenes of them going in and just kicking ass. All the kids of Vandal Savage are like, no, you can't beat us. We're superpowered. There's no way you can possibly do it. We find out that everyone else basically has just super strength. The twins, the weird purple twins we've seen throughout, apparently have the ability to like duplicate themselves and grow that way. Also, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan shows up out of nowhere. He's in his current day, like, DCU garb of, like, a trench coat and stuff, so that just ruins continuity for this book. But regardless, Vandal, he's off on the sideline of the battlefield. He got a metal pipe through his stomach, and he's like, well, that sucks, but regardless, got to get going. So he rips it out. He sees the comet over top, and he's like, all right, time to go. And then, what's his name? Beastmaster, Uker, shows up and is like, no, you're not going anywhere. And he tries throwing a punch, and Vandal just immediately jumps over him, stabs him through the chest, through the back, and he's out. Puzzler comes up, and he's like, hey, we don't really have a way to get you up to the comet, considering it's still out in space, so, I made a jetpack. Here you go. And he's like, cool. Straps it on, just starts jetpacking his way up. He gets, like, I don't know, most of the way up. It doesn't look like he's in space, but he still just throws the jetpack off. So maybe he can fly now? I don't know. Superman's still trying to, like, reason with the children, saying, like, hey, your dad only sent you up there to see if there were any bad ill effects of being around the comet. He was using you. You shouldn't be working for him anymore. And then he sees Vandal flying up there. He's like, all right, well, I got to go deal with that. Bye. And as he's about to leave, Frankenstein, who has been absent for a suspiciously long time, shows up and tries fighting Superman. He's under control of the black goo stuff. And immediately Superman's like, all right, I should have dealt with this before. He visions Frankenstein. All the black goo comes off, and Superman just rips away, being like, there you go. Now you should be normal, Frankenstein. Join the fight. I'm out. So everyone down on the ground's continuing the fight. More and more heroes are joining in. Shazam, pretty much everyone from the Justice League United. And as they're fighting, we see that the twins have duplicated too much, which is for some reason causing all of them to fail. So they start, like, exploding, and Salvax as well. He's breaking down, he's deteriorating. All the kids have these negative effects happening to them, just one after another. None of them are able to hold up. Superman's still chasing after Vandal. He's trying to catch up as best he can, until finally all the kids explode down on the ground, and the Justice Leagues go flying. Superman finally catches up to Vandal. They start fighting in outer atmosphere. I mean, there's still, like, comets and satellites and stuff, so it's low Earth orbit. But regardless, he's like, look, Vandal, you did everything you could to destroy my life, and I'm still here. I'm not going to let you take any more lives. And he's like, bro, I'm getting closer to the comet. This was literally my win condition. I'm going to survive, and I'm going to nail this. And we see, as we zoom out from this fight, that, like, the comet is still making its way down to Earth. It's still about to collide. So Vandal seemingly has won. To be continued, Superman number 50. It feels big because there's so many double page spreads, but by that same metric, it doesn't feel like a lot happens at all. This feels very much like an in-between bridging issue of, we're wrapping this up in Superman 50. That's going to be the final issue of this. So we just need to delay the fight until then, which is doubly weird because when we get to Superman 50, it feels like that one is also padded out. So it's like, why did this one need to come? Delay this one by a week and make it like an epilogue issue. Make it Superman and Wonder Woman now have to deal with their relationship, because that's a whole thing that we've just forgotten as part of this book for quite some time now. So yeah, it's fine. It looks great. I don't have a problem with any of that. It is just a matter of, for the sake of the event, it doesn't feel useful. It feels more like, we introduced these characters, so I guess we have to deal with them. And fair enough, but you didn't have to introduce them if you didn't have a way out already. So I'm going to say just around 7. I don't think it needs to go anything higher than that. It's a very quick book, very easy to read, and it's good. It's just not great. So tune in for the finale, coming up literally the same week. Superman number 50, written by Gene Luen Yang, art by Howard Porter, Ardian Syaf, Patrick Zircher, and John Bogdanove, because, of course, anniversary issue, double length. So in the previous issue of Superman Wonder Woman, Superman was chasing Vandal up into space to help pull him down before he got comet powers. We see that the comet powers are already starting to take effect. It's making him powerful beyond imagining. And Superman is like, well, he kept on thinking he could beat me, and he thinks he's already won. I'm going to tell him that he's wrong. And we just see the fight continues to break out. Superman, they're leaping around like a bunch of asteroids that are up here because of the comet, and Superman makes a comment of saying it's like an old school video game that Jimmy always talks about. And it's like, yeah, that's where your mind goes in the final fight. But we see that once he finally makes contact with the comet and is like standing on it, Vandal turns into this purple flame. I kind of want to say deity being. Like, he looks just like a typical supervillain rather than a man. So Superman gets punched back down to Earth. Vandal's standing over him, and he's like, "Oh, you either got my admiration or my pity. I'm not sure which. You had all this strength, and this is what you chose to do with it. You've catered to the weak for too long. I'm gonna show you just how wrong you were with all that. Your choices have consequences." And then Puzzler comes in, and they, I don't know, bond him up in something. So when Superman wakes up, he lands into a metal thing, and he's like, where am I? What's going on? And as he looks around, he realizes he's on Krypton, and he just collided with his own rocket ship that's still sitting in Jor-El's house. And he's like, what? So everything starts to rumble. We see Jor-El and Lara nearby, and Superman's like, this must be the end of Krypton. I've been here once or twice before. Gotta go help them out. And as he goes over, he notices that they all look older than he remembers them. They've changed slightly. So he pushes them out of the way in falling rubble, and they're like, "Oh, thank Rao you were here, mister." And we see the kid who said that is Kal-El. It's baby Clark. And Lara's like, "Hey, where'd you learn that? Rao is just a myth. You got to thank the High Chief. He's the one that you got to thank for this. He must have been the one that saved us." And Kal-El's like, "Oh yeah, totally." So Superman's like, "What the hell is going on here? Like, I wasn't sent by the High Chief. I just showed up, but like, I came through that rocket ship that's sitting in your workshop." And Jor-El's like, "Oh yeah, that rocket ship. Well, I believe that the planet would completely fall apart, but I just didn't have enough faith in the High Chief because he showed up and he saved everything. And it's been several years since then." And everyone's looking like, Superman's like, "What are you talking about? Where's this High Chief guy?" And so he goes deeper into whatever city they're on Krypton. And despite it having red sun, him not having any of his powers, because he spent so long without his powers prior to this, he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm pretty good with taking out guards or whatever." So he busts his way into the High Chief's chambers, and then coming out from the planet core is Vandal Savage. And he's like, "Hi, I'm keeping the core stable. I'm down there piecing it back together, so you're welcome." And Superman's like, "Just cut it out. We all know that this isn't a thing. Krypton is gone. It's not still here." And he's like, "Well, yeah, no, clearly this is a virtual simulation. Puzzler put it together, but like, I could do this with the amount of power I currently have. Yeah, I can save planets like Krypton. I mean, come on. This is in fact, if you go back to the beginning of this storyline, the only reason the comet even came by Earth in the first place is because a Kryptonian scientist diverted it so it didn't crash into Krypton. So you and I actually have interlocking origin stories. Ain't that nutty?" And he's like, "Yeah, all right, whatever." So Vandal walks him out to the balcony. He's just like, "Look at this. Krypton, like, yeah, a bunch of people had to die, like, if we had let the comet hit the planet, but it would have made us better people for it. Like, Krypton would have been a much better place, and like, your parents wouldn't have had to send you off. Wouldn't that have been something?" And Superman's like, "You don't know how it would happen." And he's like, "All right, fine. Let's jump ahead to something that could still happen." And all of a sudden, we're in a post-apocalyptic future. I don't know what you want to call it, but Vandal Savage is in charge of a big place called the Stronghold, and he's basically taken over the world. And we see that Superman is serving as his general, and a bunch of other heroes and villains have all teamed up underneath Vandal, and they're saying like, "Oh, General Superman, what do we do?" And he's like, What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, the Dominators, they're here. They're here to take over Earth, and they're going to attack everybody." And we see a bunch of alien ships come down, and Superman's like, "I am 99% sure that all of this is virtual, but if there's even a chance that the people here are real people that Vandal's brought into a sick game, I can't risk them dying." So Superman goes out and he leads the charge of all these heroes and villains, and they all fight against the Dominators, who I think are blue now. There's only one of them on panel, and he's very deep blue. But regardless, he's like, "Yep, they're my team. They all fight like a team." And Superman's like, I don't like how right this feels. This feels like it should be a thing that happens." So we see they're all out to some feast afterwards, and they're all hailing Vandal Savage and Superman for leading the charge against the Dominators. And Vandal's just like, see, look, you're literally helping lead the world through strength. Like, that's it. And Superman's like, all right, fair. But what happens to the weak people? Like, if only the strong survive, what happens to those that are weak? And he's like, oh, well, they serve in other ways. And, whatever we have to do, but like, yeah, they're not that important to the grand scheme of things. And Superman's like, see, that's where we're different. Like, that's why the Justice League's a thing. We protect everybody, not just the strong. He's like, yeah, well, your Justice League's going to fail because anything that is subservient to the weak is going to fail long enough, just like Krypton did. So at that point, Superman's like, look, all right, fine. Let's say that you're right. Why do you need me? You have unlimited power. You just got the comet. What's up with that? And he's like, I need you because a chief needs a clan. What good is power if I don't have it to be over top of people? Did you know there was a book called Demon Knights at the beginning of the New 52? I was in that book, and I tried to make a team. It didn't go well. So at that point, new servings come in on platters, and it's Jimmy, Perry, and Lois. And he's like, all right, well, they're all chained up. So now I hate you, Vandal. How dare you? And he breaks their chains. And Vandal's like, all right, well, let me show you one more thing. And then he just snaps his fingers and the whole VR headset turns to post-apocalyptic. Everything's on fire. Everything's destroyed. Skulls and bones everywhere. And he's like, this is where you're going to lead to if you keep on playing the hero for the weak people. If you keep on just like not asserting your strength. Everything dies. Everything burns. It's all your fault. Stick with me and we could have the strongest clan forever. And then he snaps out of the VR. Everything's back to normal. Puzzler and him are just standing there in front of Superman. He's like, so, we cool? You want to come with me? And Superman stutters a little bit, and he's like, well, you know what? You think about it. I'll be waiting for you up in the sky. And Puzzler takes a second. He's like looking back like, So at that point, Lois and Jimmy show up. They're like, oh, hey, everything cool, Superman? But Superman's having a flashback because he remembers some words that Pa Kent said back in the day. Turns out that Clark was upset that some kid was getting bullied and he wanted to fight back against the bullies. And he's like, well, have you tried talking to the bully? It's just like, oh, there's no talking to jerks like him. I could just knock him out in one punch, teach him a lesson his own way. And Pa starts to say, look, with great power comes great responsibilities and your choices have consequences. And he's like, yeah, exactly. My responsibility is to knock him on his ass. And he's like, no. Your responsibility is knowing that your gift has limits. Like you can't solve everything by going around and punching people. That's important. And he's like, yeah, all right, I guess not. So at that point, as Lois is coming up and trying to talk to him, Superman just flies off to chase after Vandal. Vandal and Puzzler are pushing the comet down to Earth because, again, they want to like wrap that up, get it all locked in place. And as Superman comes up to seemingly talk to Vandal, instead he diverts over, grabs the other side of the comet, and starts pushing back. And Vandal's like, oh, god damn, all right, fine. Puzzler, go take care of him. Take him out. And Puzzler comes around, and he starts talking psionically because Hoarder Root had psychic. Don't worry about it. So he talks psychically. He's like, hey, Superman, I was meant to come over here and kill you, but before I do, I want to know, why did you not destroy Hoarder Root when you had the chance? He was my brother. He was a robot. Like, what's up? And Superman's like, he seemed pretty human. Like, I know you said he's a robot and he's all robot parts, but like, if he had that much humanity in him, then it's not my place to kill. And it's just like, yeah, but he's data. That's all he ever was. And it's just like, well, I mean, maybe you're more than data too. You ever consider that? You don't have to work for Vandal Savage. You can be your own person. And Puzzler's like, oh, okay. And so now he talk no jutsus his way into helping Superman. Vandal's like, god damn it, I'm gonna kill both of you. So as he's pushing harder on the comet, they're pushing harder up. It starts to crack right down the middle. Vandal did not think this was a possibility, and the whole thing just explodes. So Superman once again falls back down to Earth, colliding in a bunch of rubble. Somehow he's right next to where Lois and Jimmy were again, and they're like, oh, hey, you good? Is everything all right? And he's like, yeah, fine. Is Puzzler okay? And just like, yeah, somewhere over the ocean, I think. And what about Vandal? Where's he? He's like, I don't know. We didn't see him. So Clark says, look, Lois, about that choice that you made all those months ago. And Lois is like, hey, you don't have to say it. I get it. It's okay, Clark. And they share an embrace, but then Jimmy's just like also there. So I don't know if it's meant to be romantic. He's like holding on to Superman's shoulder. We cut to some time later. All three of them are in a diner. And then Jimmy's gotten hired back by the Daily Planet because he took a really great picture of Superman. Everyone else in the diner's like, oh my God, it's them. It's Clark and Superman. Oh my Jesus. And all of a sudden, Clark hears something with the super hearing, people needing help. So he rushes out of the diner, opens up his shirt, pulls out the Superman logo, and flies off. The adventure continues, and I'm sure nothing bad will happen to Superman until the next issue. Okay, end of Savage Dawn, I think. There might be an epilogue in some other issue, but I think that's the end of it. I don't think there was an overlining thing. It just doesn't feel like there was any sort of overlining message. This issue specifically comes down on the idea of, like, you can't beat everything just by punching it. Like, strength isn't everything. And that's fine to an extent, like, fair enough if you want that to be the message of this issue. But the arc, the overall event, like, they didn't even deal with Vandal. Like, is he still God-powered? Is he still in space? What happened to him? This felt, again, like something that was rushed, something that was pushed through because we were reaching the end of the New 52. There's a whole nother super event that needs to happen immediately following up after this one. So it's not like we could take a few issues, waste some time here. It didn't feel like there was enough out here. And then to spend so much time with trying to convince Superman that might makes right and, like, that Vandal's ultimately there, was that what we were doing over the whole DCU? This idea that, like, oh, Superman was depowered and look how hard of a time he had it. He needed to be strong the whole time. It's like, well, kind of, I guess, but he also succeeded in every other one of those arcs. Every single time he was put against the wall and then he did it. Like, he succeeded. So I don't know. Maybe if he had a few losses, maybe if he had a few times in there where it was like, yeah, no, and the villain just won. Like, that could be something. I don't know. I wanted us to have to spend all this time to building to something greater, building to something that felt like it was really saying something about Superman, but instead we could just come back on this whole thing of, yes, he could destroy the world with a thought if he so chose, but he doesn't, because Superman means more than that. And it's like, yeah, they covered that in the 1930s. Are we still doing that? So for this issue, I'd still say it's like a 7.5. It's fine. It's okay. Like, it's a good issue. I think the event overall, though, like, I don't know, it's like a 6 something, maybe just a flat 6, but it wasn't doing anything for me in the larger sense. And the fact that it felt so borderless as well, like everything was just leading to Savage Dawn, it just, I don't know, didn't work for me. So yeah, 7.5. On to the next. Legends of Tomorrow, #1, the Firestorm story, written by Gerry Conway and Eduardo Pansica. This is also subtitled United We Fall. We open up with the current Firestorm, I guess, the current setting, the current placement that we're at there, where Ronnie and Jason are still Firestorm. We see that they're doing experiments with Dr. Stein, and it's been a while, but I thought Dr. Stein was dead. So just accept that he's there, he's helping measure them and see their output or anything like that. Ronnie's pushing too hard, Jason's telling him to hold back, and eventually he's unable to melt through a wall fast enough, and it causes some massive explosion. So as they tumble out, they separate in their 2 separate beings. Dr. Stein's spraying it all down with a fire extinguisher, and he's like, look, everybody else who bonded with the Firestorm Matrix died except for you two, and it must have something to do with the fact that it is 2 of you. So we still got to figure out exactly what makes you guys able to be even kind of stable, despite the fact that it's so unstable. So Jason gets all pissed off that he's always having to ride shotgun, and Stein's like, yeah, I don't know, but like, we'll figure it out. That's the whole reason we're running these tests. So he starts muttering to himself as he walks in, talking about how he needs some more research and whatever. Jason and Ronnie continue talking. Jason's got a headache. Ronnie's just like, oh, hey, you got that thing tomorrow, right? Should we tell the professor that you've got a headache? And he's like, no, I just want to do this myself. So as Stein is talking, he says, oh, well, I could always reach out to my former associate, Danton Black, to which point both Ronnie and Jason are like, that's multiplex. What? My guy. No, don't do that. And he's like, what? No, sorry, I was just talking out loud. I would never. Don't worry about it. No, bye. So Ronnie's trying to flag down Professor, let him know that Jason has a headache, but Jason drags him out. They turn into Firestorm and fly off back to home, bickering the whole time. Ronnie gets home, talks to his mom, who apparently is becoming the vice principal at school. She's trying to review some of the guidelines for that sort of stuff. And he's like, if you don't know it by now, you're not going to do it. But you know it because you've been studying this whole time. Apparently he has a game tomorrow, so he texts, I don't know her name, we'll get there, saying, hey, you going to be at the game? And she's like, maybe, if I can. And then simultaneously, Jason gets home. His dad has been out there, and he's continuing to study and all that sort of stuff. And Dad's like, shouldn't you be in bed? Like, you got your thing tomorrow, your, what's it called? Interview. It's for a science thing. And he's like, I just want to make you proud of me, Dad. I want to be able to do what I can. And he's like, I'm always going to be proud of you as long as you try your hardest. Anyway, go get some sleep. And then Jason texts the same girl, hey, you're going to be at my interview. I could use you as like some support. And she's like, if I can, sure. We then cut over to an airport where scientist lady is talking about how she's trying to explore peaceful nuclear energy stuff, and then all of a sudden the cab that she's in gets jumped by multiplex. It crashes. She crawls out of the wreckage and just being like, your name's Dr. Marla Cunningham, right? You got a lot of stuff about nuclear fusion. I'm multiplex. You can call me Dan. I want to talk to you. So we cut to the next day at school, and I still don't know her name. I'm realizing now that they have this whole bit where they're introducing each other, but she's not actually there listed in the first page. So Tanya, there we go. She's basically chewing them out of like, hey, you both requested that I be at these things for both of you, and neither of you have any consideration for like me because it was 11:45 at night and I was asleep. And there's like, Ronnie, you wanted her to be yours. Oh, it's a big game. What do you mean she needs to be your interview? She can't even be in there with you. So they bicker. She just storms off. And one of the football guys who's walking with Ronnie makes fun of him for having a crush on Tanya. We then cut over to Jason, who talks to this girl who apparently is his intellectual rival at the school, and they've constantly tied at all these different mathlete things and science fairs. Her name's Monica. She offers Jason a soda, like, here's some caffeine. I want you at your best if I'm going to beat you during this interview. Then we go to the football game later in the day. We see Ronnie is basically told, hey, we're down by 3. We're going to force it into overtime, do a field goal. And he's like, nah, screw that. We can get a touchdown. And so he ignores his coach's plans. He does a whole big play. He's the hero to the whole crowd. But then the coach comes in being like, if you ever disrespect my orders like that again, you're off the team. And he's like, what? We won. And he's like, yeah, but you got to be part of a team, not just the star quarterback. But then Tanya runs in and he's like, hey, Jason, he's collapsed. He is unconscious. You got to come on, right now. So they get up. Jason comes out to the car and he's just like, you got to help me reschedule. I'm doing this thing. And they're like, does he need to go to a doctor? Like, what's up? And Ronnie says, well, we were with Professor Stein. He said he was having some wooziness when we were doing Firestorm stuff. Maybe this is a Firestorm thing. I'm just going to go take him to the professor. And it's like, all right, well, we'll drive you. And he's like, nah, we'll just take Firestorm. It'll be faster. So they fuse together. And then inside of Firestorm, you see Jason's like, I don't feel so good, man. So as they fly as fast as they can over to Stein, they come across a tanker truck that's out of control. It's going to crash. So Ronnie's like, look, little pit stop. I'm just going to stop this truck. No problem. And he turns the asphalt on the highway to sand, slowing down the truck until it stops. And Ronnie's like, there we go. We did great. And then all of a sudden, Jason just starts screaming. The whole thing of Firestorm explodes. And we cut over to Stein, who's also just looking over some notes. And all of a sudden, Firestorm crashes in through the roof. Big explosion. And he's curled up in the fetal position, just yelling, help us, Professor. I think we're going to explode. That's that. Solid. Good start. I do wish it would have given a little bit more context to what the current setting for Firestorm was, because it does feel very... not different, but it feels... like a lot was dropped and a lot was just like, yeah, don't worry about the previous story. Like, we're just setting up with this fresh Firestorm thing. And if that's the case, so be it. But then it also feels like we don't have enough backstory on Jason and Ronnie at this point. So a little of both. I'll say 7.5. Feels good, feels fine. Looking forward to the rest. Legends of Tomorrow, #1, the Metamorpho story, written and art by Aaron Lopresti. It's also called Two Worlds, One Destiny. we open up with who we find out is Metamorpho, Rex Mason, in his human form. He's going through a bunch of Egyptian tombs and stuff like that, and there's this voice basically saying, your destiny was determined centuries ago. Only following the path to your beginnings will you understand your purpose. And as he goes inside, there's a big glowing ball, and he turns into Metamorpho. So we then cut over to a lab, which is owned by Mr. Stagg and is being helped run by a caveman named Java. If you don't know Metamorpho lore, this does nothing to help you. So we see that they're looking over something. It's exploding with energy levels or whatnot, and they're saying, oh, whatever's going on inside of him is overpowering the orb. So Stagg sends Java in to go take care of it, and inside we see is Metamorpho strapped down, and he's held in place by this orb of energy. In runs Sapphire Stagg, daughter of, I think it's Simon Stagg. They only call him Mr. Stagg here. And she's like, oh, I heard you call for help over the security lines. I was the closest one. And he's like, fine, whatever. I don't want you in here, but go ahead, find out a way to do it. And as she's like typing in buttons or whatever like that, it turns out that taking the oxygen out of the system will be the thing that fixes it. So Metamorpho starts calming down. And Stagg's like, all right, Java, get him back at the containment cell. You get out of here. You shouldn't have been down on this level to begin with. This is not the time or place. And Sapphire runs off in a hush. So we get the basic gist of it that Metamorpho, and this is explained over several pages, but Metamorpho was a person for hire named Rex Mason. He was hired by Simon Stagg to grab this thing called the Orb of Ra, which is some sort of infinite energy thing, or at least he believes it to be. In grabbing it, Rex Mason became Metamorpho, and now they are trying to figure out how to use the Orb of Ra to get the infinite energy and also maybe help Rex. It feels much more so from the idea of the Orb and Rex are linked to some extent, so they're just trying to figure out what that link is. As we continue on, Sapphire's all pissed off at her dad, basically saying, look, I am the best chemist in this whole place. I should be allowed to work on these high-profile things, and yet you keep holding me out. And Stagg's like, you told me you didn't want it to look like nepotism. So, like, yeah, I've been holding you back. And she's like, okay, but, like, it's not nepotism if I'm actually the best at what I do. So what is the Metamorpho project? What was down in that lab? And Stagg's like, all right, you know what? You want to help? Fine, you can help. Rex Mason's the guy down there. You can help do whatever. And she basically just explains to her exactly what I said to you. We sent him out. He hired the thing. He got some powers, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, so you're holding this guy captive. And it's like, no, we're trying to find a cure. Like, it's for our own, his own, and everyone else's safety. Like, that's important. And we also get the reveal here that Java, who is a caveman, was actually in ice until he was discovered by Rex Mason and then delivered here to Stag Course. So, like, yeah, it is actually, like, a caveman thing. We'll get his intelligence later on. So he's basically like, look, I don't want to argue with you. Fine, you have the job, whatever. So as she's walking back, we see that some other scientists are like, ha, nepotism. She didn't deserve any of this. She can't be that good looking and that smart. To which point she gets all pissed off and like talking to some AI computer saying like, how do I get the respect of my peers? And it's like, I can order you something on Amazon. It's like, all right, whatever. Help me with Metamorpho. So Java talks to Stagg basically saying like, look, I don't want Sapphire in this. She might get hurt. She's too compassionate for all this. And Stagg's just like, I am more worried about you. You keep on going off into your little primitive rages, and that's not good. Are you taking your meds? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you sure? Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to convince Metamorpho to work with us. That's the thing. I'm going to use my daughter to do that. So, and then he says world domination, because of course that's what he's going for. We cut out into space. And we see there's a spaceship, and they are scanning for something. Honest to God, I'm sure it'll become important, but it's a Green Lantern villain named Kanjar Ro, and yeah, maybe Stagg's doing work with him. I don't know. It doesn't come up in this issue. So Sapphire's more or less just talking about how strange the readings are, and then she hears Rex call out saying, help me. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize you were sentient. Like, you're made of a bunch of rocks and gases. How are you still human in that? And he's like, I don't know, but like, you got to get me out of here. The orb is pumping all that energy into me, and I can't do much while it is. You got to turn it off. And she's like, okay, well, I've turned it down. Is that better? And he's like, yeah, well, better. So she says, like, yeah, look, I know who you are. I did research into you. You were this famed man who could like conquer anything, and now you're stuck in here like this, and how'd you get like that? And it's just like, oh yeah, well, your dad hired me and now he's trying to kill me. And she's like, what? No, my dad's not trying to kill you. And that's where Stag comes in, and it's just like, hey, since when has he been awake? Why haven't you noted all this down? She's like, she literally just woke up, and like, I didn't even know this was a possibility. So yeah, I'm sorry if I was a little bit taken aback. And he's like, all right, well, go take some samples somewhere else or something like that. So she storms off. Rex and Stag have a standoff where Rex is like, so that's your daughter, huh? It seems like she fell pretty far from the tree considering she knows compassion. And he's like, all right, look, I'm here to make a deal with you. Things are different. Something links between you and the orb. I'm not sure what it is. So here's the deal. I can help you. I can find a cure if you work with me on this. All right. So how does that sound? And he's just like, a cure from you. I'll take my chances just dying. And he's just like, all right, well, I'm sure you'll change your mind, but we'll deal with that whenever it comes. So we see Stafffire's doing her thing. Java's in the room, and Java tries laying down the moves, just being like, so, if we're going to be working together, I was thinking maybe. And she's like, oh, hey, by the way, I want to ask you about Rex Mason. He's like, I don't want to talk about him. And she's like, what? Why not? He's like super awesome, and he seems cool, and he's the one who saved you from the ice, right? And he's like, shut up! And he runs away. So we see Java's getting all pissed off. He's sitting in his room, and he's like muttering Rex's name over and over again. And Stag's like, hey man, I can tell you're not doing well. So here's the deal. Here are your meds. They give you your super intelligence. You got to keep on taking them so you don't revert back to stupid caveman. And I want you to forget about my daughter, because there's no way that anything there is happening between you. So Sapphire goes back to Rex, starts apologizing, being like, hey, look, I'm sure, it's been dehumanizing for you in here. And he's like, yeah, you don't have any idea. But also, you don't even know me. So what's with all the compassion? She's just like, oh, well, I've read so much about you. I feel like I do know you. And you're so much more than just the monster that I see before you now. I feel like we can find a way to bring you back. And Rex says, look, the orb is only part of the equation. The real answers are back in the pyramid. I've been having these visions. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but we'll find the answers to everything back in the lost pyramid of Aktun. And so Sapphire's like, okay, well, I talked to my dad, and maybe getting back to the pyramid might be the only answer. Maybe that's true. And he's like, cool, so let me go. And she's like, I don't know about that. That seems pretty bad. And she's like, oh, okay, so you do only see me as a monster. And she's like, no, I just saw what happened when you lost control of your powers. And he's like, well, I can control them now. I'm better now, so let me out of here. And she's like, you're just desperate. And he's like, yeah, of course I'm desperate. You locked me up in here. Of course I want to get out of here. So they continue talking, and finally she's like, look, I need your word that you won't hurt my father. Do we have a deal? And he's like, fine, I won't hurt your dad. And that's when Java comes in. He's super pissed off, roided out, and he's like, hey, I want to kill Rex Mason. And that's the issue. Sure, fine, fair. I mean, we had, what was her name? Meta, was it even Meta? There was a girl. There was a female version in Justice League of Metamorphosis girl or lady or whatever her name was. But I don't think we ever actually had a Rex Mason. So if this is acting as like an origin story, if this is setting all that up for the new 52, fine, cool, I'm good with it. I will say it goes a little bit heavy. It does feel like it presumes a little bit of knowledge of what Metamorpho does, at least in this first issue. Maybe we'll get a little bit more as we go on, where it feels more, oh no, here's an explanation, here's what he does. But here it just assumes he's made up of a bunch of elements. So yeah, I'll say a flat 7. It's all right. It's not great. It's not blowing me back, but it's okay. Legends of Tomorrow #1, the Sugar and Spike story, written by Keith Giffen, art by Bilquis Evely. So we pick up with Sugar and Spike. Now, who are Sugar and Spike? We learn more about the personalities over the course of the story. It turns out this is an old pair of characters. And in this story, they are being adapted into early 20s, maybe teenage years of a pair of friends, probably, who are metahuman investigators, private investigators focusing primarily on metahuman things. So we see that they arrive at this building with like barbed wire fences and stuff like that, and they're talking about Killer Moth, and it seems as though that is their focus, their subject here of their investigation. Sugar is a young woman. She is blonde. She is very no-nonsense, very straight-laced, where it seems Spike is a lot more colorful, red hair. He's a guy who... I guess wants to have more fun with things, is more like upbeat to an extent. That's what I'm getting from the first issue. But we see that they break in through this fence. They're just continuously like going back and forth, where Sugar's giving some information about Killer Moth, of how it was like gooey cocoons and whatnot. And he's just like, really? Gooey cocoons? And he's like, I don't know. So as they make their way through the fence, Sugar spots some mines. They try to figure out whether it's explosive or proximity. And then as soon as they take another step, it's like all the alarms go off. And he's like, oops, no, that's proximity. So they start getting fired upon. They're remarking how it is crazy that Killer Moth can afford henchmen, but they hide off behind a dumpster, and then they pull out some guns of their own. They start taking shots against some of the people firing out the windows. They move out of their cover, trying to get closer to the building, and as they are pinned against the building, Spike's like, all right, so what do we do now? She's like, oh, well, we wait. And he's like, what do you mean we wait? And he's like, well, they know where they think we are, so we'll just have to deal with this. Henchman 101. And she knocks on the wall right like at a loading port or something. It's a thin wall. And then as soon as she does, she ducks down, and a whole bunch of guns start flying out through the wall. And once she does that, she kneels over and goes, oh, the agony. I've been wounded and my friend is dead. Cough, cough, please. Someone help me. So then the loading door starts opening up. And as soon as it does, they pry it open themselves, have the henchmen at their own gunpoint, and they take a few shots. I guess I'll say now, they reveal by the end of the issue, they're all trank darts. These aren't actual murderous people here. This is all to do with trank darts, but the henchmen are firing real shots, so that's something. So as they're making their way through this warehouse that's filled with a bunch of gadgets and gizmos on shelves, they say, oh, the usual. And Sugar goes, you're on. And as they encounter all these henchmen, there's a thing where one of them is surprised by a henchman. The henchman gets the drop on them. And then the other one fires a shot to take them out. And they start counting. It's the, body count. One for each and then two for each. As they get up to the top of the room, we see that there is a computer room that has one henchman in it. That Spike is there. He takes out. And Killer Moth's just working on something, and this is the Green Arrow version of Killer Moth that I think was in issue 25, if I remember correctly, where he's just a creepy dude that has like gas masks and stuff like that. Like, it's not a thing. And he turns around, sees Spike just being like, well, don't stare. Like, you've got a gun. Whatever you do, next move is yours. And as he looks over, he's like, I don't suppose you could stop your friend from like shooting all of my guys. And he's like, nah, I don't think I really can. And he's like, all right, fair enough. So unless I've lost count of how many shots I just heard, that was the last of them. So Sugar comes up just saying, hey, you find Killer Moth? Oh, hey, Killer Moth's here. And he's like, look, you guys, I'm just going to sit here and try not to be self-conscious. I'm going to keep working on my things. And Sugar's like, all right, that's fine. And she walks over to this clothing rack where it turns out there is a bunch of, for lack of a better term, embarrassing bat suits. And he's like, yes, this is all the things here. This is what they were missing. Here's a zebra suit, a caveman suit, all these different colored suits. And Killer Moth comes out and he's like, yeah, he was mad. In order to wear them, he was doing it for a secret identity. But like, why would anyone make a zebra suit? It's insane. Anyway, can you guys tell me why you're in my secret lair? And it's like, this is a warehouse. And he's like, yeah, well, I was squatting in this warehouse and it's become my secret lair. And he's like, all right, well, why do you have the bat suits? He's like, times are tight. You take what you can get. So at that point, Killer Moth says that he wants to become a kind of supervillain information center. And he was trying to rebrand himself as that. He was setting up business here. And he's like, yeah, information, it comes at a price. And they're saying like, okay, but where'd you get the bat suits? And he's like, they were in the warehouse when I showed up here. I couldn't just leave them here. And it's like, why do some of them look like they're partially eaten? And Killer Moth looks embarrassed. And he's like, a man has his needs. And it's like, gee, you do that part of the moth bit? Jesus. All right, whatever. We're getting out of here. And he's like, could you not make fun of my addiction? And he's like, no. Shut up. So they basically say, look, we don't really care what you do. We're not hired to like turn you into the police. We are going to call the cops because we were just fired upon numerous times. But, you know, that's going to give you like a 5-minute head start. But you're going to leave the bat suits with us. We're taking them in. And he's like, all right, fair enough. So they just leave. They meet up with Alfred in the middle of nowhere and just like, oh, I assume everything went smoothly. And they're like, yeah, sure, fair enough. So they pull all the bat suits out of the back of the car. Sugar is just not playing ball with Alfred's little like jokes and quips and stuff like that. He's like, I heard there was a scuffle of some kind. And she's like, yeah, uh-huh. And Spike is basically saying like, hey, I could use a hand with all these. And she just gives him like the most stink eye I've ever seen on a panel. And Alfred's like, oh, okay, well, look, as long as nobody with any credibility saw the suits, then like we should be fine. Everything good? And he's like, nope. Anything else I should be aware of? Nope. All right, here's your money. Bye. And Alfred just takes off. And Spike's like, I think you creeped him out. And he's like, I didn't creep him out. His boss is Batman. I don't think I could do the ability to creep him out. So they get back in the car. They compare numbers. She tagged 5. He only had 4. So she gets to pick where they get breakfast. Turns out she wants a pizza joint. And Spike is not super cool with that because it's too early for that. As they're in the diner, this is what we get the reveal that they are all tranq darts. They're not actual bullets. So he's just remarking over how I can't even see the dart part of it. They look like real bullets. And as they are, Spike's like, all right, do we have anything else for the rest of the day? And she's like, oh, I mean, did you want something else? And he was like, no, just trying to get ready for whatever. And then Sugar pulls out her phone, looks at something, says, hey, can you swim? And he's like, what? I don't. And then she's like, all right, well, pick me up at 8. And he's like, why do I have to swim? What are we going to have to do here? And she storms off, leaving Spike to pay for the rest of the meal. They drive back. Turns out I think they live next to each other in like adjacent homes. One of their names is Wilson, the other is Plum. And Spike just walks into his house, Sugar walks into hers, and then he locks the car door, and that's it. That's the story. I don't know. It was fun. It was a fun story. Like I enjoyed Killer Moth being like this weirdo that is just like eating bat suits, and the voices on all the characters are great, but it's like trying to recap a comedy just by just saying the jokes over and over again. Like it doesn't work for me to say it. It's just good. It's good pacing. It's good art. Definitely worth checking out. I mean, it's got its own trade paperback, so definitely worth seeing if you can get your hands on that. But no, it's a weird book. And out of all the things in the Legend of Tomorrow anthology, I think it's the one that is the most interesting to me. And yeah, I'm 50-50 on Keith Giffen. Some of the stuff I like, some of the stuff I feel like takes it too far, but this is definitely in the like category. So no, I'd say this one's easily an 8, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest. Legends of Tomorrow, number 1, the Metal Men story, written by Len Wein, art by Yildiray Cinar. So, I believe the last time we saw the Metal Men was over in Justice League during... No, it was in Cyborg, actually. They showed up for a hot minute there. It doesn't matter. There's no continuity between those. We pick up in Nevada, where there is a quote-unquote rainstorm. However, instead of rain, it's giant robots shaped like missiles. And they are called Missile Men, and they are demanding surrender of everyone else around. However, as the people scatter, we see the Metal Men have shown up, and they are saving as many people as they can. That is literally their number 1 priority. To introduce the Metal Men, they are robots based off of different metals. There is gold, tin, lead, platinum, iron, mercury, and is there one more? Nope, that's it. So all of them come in trying to save the day. Gold is the good-looking leader sort of character. Lead and iron seem to fill a similar role, though lead seems a bit dumber. All things considered, they're both heavy muscle. Platinum is the female one. Tin is small, stuttery, a little bit unsure of himself. And Mercury feels like the hothead, and he's also liquid at room temperature, which I felt like they were setting up to be a thing of he's the only one who can like shapeshift super easily, but they all can shapeshift super easily. So I don't know what we're doing. Regardless, we see Tin comes across a little girl, and she's crying over the fact that she doesn't have her doll. It's in a pile of rubble. So Tin goes over, gets it out, and pulls the doll over. And the girl's like, oh, thank you. You're the nicest, best robot. And then her mom shows up, grabs her, and just being like, robots are killing us all, including this one. He must be a freak. Get away from him. Look at what they're doing to the city. And they run off, and Tin's just like, I was just trying to help. So up on a roof or a cliff top, watching all this happen to the city below, we get Dr. Will Magnus, the creator of the Metal Men, Dr. Chantilly Lace, and Lieutenant General Thelma Scaletti. And they're all looking at this, and Magnus is like, so anyone want to tell me what the hell the Missile Men are? Like, what's happening here? And turns out that it's a military top secret project, and Chantilly Lace, Dr. Lace, was supposed to be the one that was like somewhat in charge of it. There's a bunch of people down in the town, despite the fact that it is literally exploding, who are protesting against robots. And Magnus is like, who could blame them? I mean, look at this. Look at what you did. So it turns out, yeah, this was supposed to be a whole thing where they could send in these robots to areas deemed too dangerous for normal people, blah, blah, blah. So the lieutenant general's like, all right, we'll get this resolved quickly. And he's just like, all right, well, who thought this was a good idea? To which point Lace is like, all right, well, this project was nowhere near ready to go. However, it was hacked into by a hacker named Nameless, and they're letting this stuff go. And it seems that Nameless has been on a tear recently of hacking into government projects. So down on the ground, we see that the reason that the Metal Men are so special is that they aren't connected to the internet. They just have their own responsometers, and that is what allows them to act within themselves. Magnus calls them all up saying, hey, guys, you're doing great down there, fighting the robots and all that. However, we need to take out the center point, the main thing. There's a ship up in that dark storm cloudy thing that's acting as the center thing. We need you to shoot it down. To which point Gold says, I'll do it, and then Iron steps up being, no, Iron is harder, I'll go. So they all shapeshift like Zord style into a giant cannon, and then Iron turns himself into a massive caliber bullet, climbs inside the cannon, and fires off up into the ship in the storm cloud. To which point Magnus is like, all right, so the momentum should take it over the edge of town, and everyone will be safe. But it doesn't. It just starts dropping. And so it's about to hit a bunch of buildings, and all the Metal Men have to rush back in to save him. They're like, don't worry about it, Doc. And he's like, I never do. So they go in. They manage to divert the ship from hitting the rest of town. All the people up on the cliff top are like, oh, geez, that was close. I don't want to cut it that close again. And Magnus is like, yep, no problem. Anyway, go send a recovery team for my Metal Men because they've all been reduced to basically atoms. And we'll have to get them back together when we're back at the shop. So we head off to a military research center, which is basically this huge futuristic town out in the middle of a desert. Tons of protesters all the time because they hate robots. And Magnus is like, you idiots, those robots saved your life. And it's like, don't argue with them. You're not making anything better. So we see that there's a little bit of a flirtation between Dr. Lace and Magnus. Like, she hates how cocky he is, but obviously it's with the side effect of they're going to absolutely go for it. Back in the lab, we see that there's a pair of twins named Gerry and Larry. They act as Magnus's assistants, I guess, whatever you want to call them. And they're like, oh, that was incredible. What'd you do with the Metal Men and all that sort of stuff? But we were tracking Nameless's IP address as he was hacking in, and he's too good for us. Like, he was spread over all these areas, and then he went back to our grandmother's house in Virginia. Like, he knows us too much. There's no way. And then Nameless all of a sudden pops up on the speakers. He's like, oh, thank you. Yes, I hacked into all your stuff. Anyway, to let you know what I want, Magnus, since I know you're there, you give me the Metal Men, and I'll stop hacking. And he's like, not a chance. The Metal Men are never going to be yours. I'll go to my grave rather than give it to you. And he's like, well, I'm the internet, so I'm going to find a way to reach them. He's like, joke's on you. They're not on the internet. So Magnus storms off, shuts off the call with Nameless, and he's like, all right, you two, did you just trace it again? Like, he was very open about that, like anything like that. And it's like, well, we've traced him to every single Chuck E. Cheese in America, so no. So at that point, Lace chimes in. He's just like, okay, but why does the Metal Men, why are they such a high target priority for Nameless? And he's just like, oh, because it's something he can't have. Something that there's no way he could hack his way into. They're completely out of his control. He wants the secret of their responsometer, so he'll do whatever he can to get it. But I got to go put the Metal Men back together anyway. So he goes down into the lab. It's this whole thing where I don't know if it's just pumping in raw materials around the responsometer or what it is, but he flips a switch, it all lights up, and then out steps all the metal men saying, yep, everything's great, good as ever, no problem. Metal men are back. And as they're all hanging around, just like, yeah, everything's fine. What do you want us to do now, Doc? And in steps Lieutenant General, who specifically points out, hey, you got a fly in here. There's a fly that was on my shoulder. And Magnus is like, nah, that shouldn't be a thing, but all right, what do you need? And Lieutenant General says, well, the Pentagon says metal men got to go. Like, we can't afford all the destruction and the lawsuits and everything like that. And the metal men are like, we were fixing it. We didn't do any of that. That was not on us. And they're like, hey, look, I got it. But, like, Pentagon doesn't care. People up top, they say, effective tomorrow morning, the metal men are to be decommissioned and reduced to their component parts. And she walks out. She's like, look, there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry. I did fight for them. I argued as best I could. And Magnus is like, but my work, what am I supposed to do? And then we see the fly. Turns out is actually an itty-bitty little camera drone, and behind it is Nameless, who says, oh, no, this will not do. I must have the metal men before they are decommissioned, one way or another. That's the issue. Okay. It's all right. I mean, honestly, if I view this through the lens of Cyborg, of their last appearance in Cyborg, it actually works a lot better, because that whole thing was the idea of a distrust in robots. So if we're working off that, so be it. I actually think that's a good bit of inner book crossover of themes and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's totally separate, but what have you. I'm going to say this one is probably 7.5. I have promise. I think that the metal men are potentially interesting characters. That's the thing. They can easily just be a horde of robots with, like, maybe one of them getting a bit of focus. In this case, Tin felt like he was the one that was getting the most, like, humanity-driven focus, but I'm sure we could do the case for all of them. And if we do that, great. But if not, then hopefully it's at least just an entertaining story using them as MacGuffins. For now, 7.5. Sinestro number 21, written by Cullen, Bunn, art by Martin Coccolo. So last issue, we had the defeat of the Paling and the Pale Bishop and all that stuff like that. Sinestro was severely weakened, and he named his daughter Sornik to take over the Lantern Corps in his absence. So this issue picks up with her descending on Earth. All the people who were hired into the Sinestro Corps are still in their yellow suits. And Sornik's the one narrating, basically like, look, I was recently a Green Lantern, now I'm a Yellow Lantern, named after Sinestro Corps. My dad, as I'm lowering down, all these people are cheering. They're all so happy to see us, and I can feel my dad's grin behind me without even looking, because that's just how he is. He's that egotistical. He named the whole Corps after himself. So she comes down, she's like, oh, no need to thank us, just doing our job. And Sinestro lands, and he's a little bit more like worse for wear. Lyssa Drac comes up and is just like, you're hurt. Is everything okay? You're hurt and you're enfeebled. What has become of you? And one of the other Lancers is like, hey, chill, back off, give him some room. And he's like, yeah, look, I'll be fine. I'll recover. I just had to give up a bit of myself in order to fight the Pale Bishop. But until I've gotten my strength back, there will be a new leader and she will need your support. So Lyssa Drac steps up and just like, Sinestro, I talked to you specifically about how the end of the Sinestro Corps was coming, the prophecy and all that. And he's like, yeah, I know, but I reject that. I think that's dumb. Maybe she's the one who can lead us out of it. And she's like, oh, but when we get back to New Korgar, he's like, I'm strong yet enough to change our fate. So Sornik's just doing a little thing of like walking through, seeing all the people. And Lyssa's like, look, there is a way if you're willing to make some sacrifices. He's like, not now. Let's just do this later, all right? It's going to fall on deaf ears. And at that point, Superman, Wonder Woman step up, and they're like, Sinestro, we'd like a word. And he's, what's her name? Becca steps up and just like, oh, are we going to have to fight? We're going to have to do this? And Superman's like, I just wanted to say I misjudged you. You really came through here, did a good job. Sinestro's like, of course you did. And this world is lucky to have you. Like, fair enough. I place some faith in you by granting you a ring, even if you would not place the same faith in me. Whatever. Either way, I gotta go talk to my daughter. Meanwhile, we cut up to Warworld, where something has happened. There is a disturbance, and they see that something crashed into it after the defeat of the Pale Bishop. And as it's like, okay, everyone, chill out. Whatever it is, we'll take care of it. They have all the agents perished when they fell. And then out pops Mongol, and he snaps some necks, starts fighting against some Yellow Lanterns, just starts crushing all of them. And he's like, I am free from the paling, but it's all Sinestro's fault that I was here in the first place. He cast me off into space. Screw him. I'm going to take my fight. And as he looks down at Earth, he realizes, like, oh, there's a lot more Yellow Lanterns on there than I expected. I will recuperate, and I will be back. This is not over. And he flies off. A bunch of manhunters follow him, trying to kill him in the process, because no man escapes manhunters. But the actual Yellow Lanterns are like, should we go deal with Mongol? He seems like a big deal. And they're like, yeah, exactly. That's why we shouldn't bother. He's going to kill us. No, let's just chill out here. It's totally fine. So as Sinestro's more weak, he's like, look, we got to go. We got to get off this planet. All right. And Sorenik's just like, hey, what do you mean we got to go? Like, this planet is in rubble. Like, it's horrible, whatever, like this. And we see, a couple of the other heroes. They're all picking up. They're doing stuff as they need. And it's like, yeah, we've got to care for all of space, Sorenik. These heroes on this planet, they can care for themselves. They'll fix up whatever needs fixing. We got to be back out there especially to our people on New Korrigar. That's also important. Like, who's protecting them right now? What more would you ask us to do? We see that one of the people helping out in the help is Arkillo, who's approached by Sanewalker. He's like, hey, I was being tortured significantly in order to have the Blue Lanterns help the Yellow Lanterns, and that was a lot. And Arkillo's like, yeah, I knew you were in there, and I knew you were being tortured, and I had no way of really helping you. But if I did, I hope you know I would have done something. He's like, no, don't worry about it. It's cool. We're all good. My hope got me through. No problem. And we see all the other heroes putting stuff together. However, then their Yellow Lantern rings come off their fingers. They're reverted back to normal. And Sorenik's like, all right, Heroes of Earth, thanks. You were only temporary. We're taking the rings back now. Your duty to Sinestro Corps has ended. And Lysidraca's is like, she just undid your recruitment drive, man. You gonna be cool with that? And he's like, yeah, it was always intended as temporary. Like, it was never meant to be a big thing. I eliminated the Lanterns who were unworthy. Sorenik feels like she's doing the same thing. And we see Harley Quinn, Scarecrow, Deathstroke, all of them lose their rings. To which point Deathstroke's the only one who's like, good riddance, who needs you? So as they fly away, Superman's like, I'm still at this phase where I don't have my powers. It felt good to have that back. And Wonder Woman's like, oh, that's how the Sinestro Corps seduces you. It gives you this powers. And Becca, who's still in the area, says like, oh, and yet you would grovel on your knees for just another second to have it again. Posture all you want, Wonder Woman. And as she walks away, Superman's like, Wonder Woman, I don't want to alert you, but I think I might be in love. And one was like, me too. And he's like, oh, seriously? And she's like, yeah, let's not talk about that though. I don't want to, that's a lot. So Sorenik's over all the people. They're like, you're abandoning us. Well, you can't leave. We're defenseless. And she's like, no. You have heroes here to protect you. You don't need us. And they're like, fat lot of good they did. They weren't able to do shit. Like, we need a Yellow Lantern here. And Sorenik's like, you want a Yellow Lantern to stay on your planet? Oh my god, my dad must love this. All right, eeny, meeny, miny, Arkillo. You want to stay on this planet? Because it seems like you got some people here liking you. Seems like they tend to think you're cool. And Arkillo's like, what? Me? Huh? And Sanewalker's like, yeah, no, you're great. You can absolutely do it. And he raises his hand being like, hey, if it's all the same to you guys, I'd love to hang around with Arkillo. I could partner up, make sure he doesn't, go off the rails or whatever. And Sorenik's like, well, I mean, that's a pretty good idea. Sinestro chimes in saying, hey, we just got Sanewalker to be like our ace in the hole. It'd be super cool if you didn't strand him on Earth and like had him come with us to the core. And Sorenik's like, excuse me, Dad, I'm in charge right now. Sanewalker, you're going to stay here with Arkillo. You two are buddy cops, okay? Just take care of everyone down here. And Sinestro just gives another shit-eating grin. Like, he loves this. So from behind, Black Adam walks up saying like, oh, hey, interesting. You saved the world. The people of this world love you. And strangely enough, wasn't it your research when you came to my country that woke the Pale Bishop up? It's almost like all of this could have been your plan from the beginning. That'd be weird for anyone to find out, right? And Sinestro's like, yeah, but I don't think anyone's going to tell anybody that. Don't you think, Black Adam? And he's like, Nope, I don't think so. I think that would I think that secret's pretty safe with me. So Lysidrak is like, are we seriously trusting that guy? He looks like he's gonna change the power dynamics of the DC universe at any given point. And it's just like, nah, he's a man of honor, he's a friend, we got an understanding. And they like bro fist the air together. So at that point, Soranik's like, all right, everyone, I guess we're done. Let's everyone go home. And they fly off into space. And Soranik just says, well, I am currently the leader of a bunch of boogeymen and monsters and fiends, and we were welcomed by the people of Earth. What a weird start. So yeah, that's that issue. And I mean, I guess the last issue was more the end of the Pale Bishop stuff. This was more of an epilogue, but I think it's good. It was one of those things where so many books, when they want to put all the pieces back, like after the story's done, they're like, okay, how do we get everything back? They just have a time skip. They just say, okay, and then 3 weeks later, everything was back to normal. I appreciate that this book took the time to specifically say all the heroes lost their rings. Like, we took all that stuff away. Mongol, he woke up, he had a reason to not immediately go and try to punch Sinestro in the face. He went off into space and is doing whatever. I just like how slow it takes it. And of course, it's changing a few things with the setup. Soranik's now in charge. Arkillo's down on Earth with Saint Walker. Tiny little things like that. Opening up the larger Green Lantern universe when we go into Rebirth. Do they take advantage of that? Maybe. But at least it's there. It's an option. So kudos to that. I think I'm going to say this is a... It's weird because it feels like so much happens, and yet also because it's an epilogue, it feels so unneeded as well. I think I'm still going to give it the 8. I don't know. There's several panels, several sequences in this that I really do like. The Superman and Wonder Woman both realizing like, oh my God, I think I love that woman. And they've realized like, yeah, let's not talk about that. That's weird. That entire sequence just cracked me up. So yeah, I'll give it the 8. It's a good ending of the story, even if it is just an epilogue. Robin, Son of Batman, number 10, written by Ray Fawkes, art by Ramon Bachs. So this is not the start of Ray Fawkes' story. He had an issue 2 issues ago, but it feels like the start of his ongoing. What is he going to do for the next 3 issues to wrap up the Robin, Son of Batman book? Unfortunately, it's going back to the exact same place that we just left. So we pick up with the Luen Darga, the whole thing that I guess the previous arc was leading up to, and we see that there's someone who's like, I can't believe I failed. This sucks. The artifacts, the Algol child returned, should have given me power. I need more of that. And we see that there is this person being, whoever it is, who's wearing the skull mask thing that the Luen Darga had, and some other person walks up and just pulls it right off. And he's like, oh, one of us will be quite enough, father. So the son of the Luen Darga is taken over. We cut to Gotham where Damian's just sitting around feeding his dog and cat and cow, and he's like, I can't help but feel like I've forgotten something. Like something may have slipped through the cracks. And then all of a sudden an alarm goes off for the submarine, the island that he left it on Algol Island, and he's like, crap, all right, we gotta go. And he gets in his gear, flies off with Goliath. As soon as they make their way over, he checks the submarine. He's like, crap, okay, we got to go to Mexico. We got to go now. We've been robbed. Someone stole 3 of the items from the Year of the Blood Vault. This ain't good. This is only going to be a disaster. So we cut back over to the kid of the Dargas, and he's like, oh, the last days of mankind are finally here. Robin let his guard down, so I'm going to step in there. I will call you to rise again, Den Darga. And we see whoever is taking control, this kid of the father, is a kid. He is not that old. He's probably Damian's age in order to make the comparison. So as Damian's flying away on Goliath, he's like, oh, I was hoping to see father. Like, I shouldn't have returned to Gotham. It was all that was needed there. Mother said that I've involved weaknesses. I hate it when she's right. And he looks at his little communicator that has Maya, and he's like considering calling her back. He's like, no, Maya has her life now. If the world's going to end tomorrow, let her have this one last day to herself. And we cut over to Bodnesia, where I guess she's hanging out. And she looks over the sunset. All of a sudden, ninjas on speedboats start coming in. So she starts sprinting as fast as she can back to wherever it is she's hanging out. Cut to Mexico. we see there's this super deep pit, and he's just like, all right, Goliath, we gotta bring our biggest strength. We cannot fail. Let's go. Take us as fast as you can. And they dive deep underneath the water, where a bunch of winged serpents are, and as they make their way down deeper and deeper, they eventually crash into this crystal cavern, and inside of it is an altar, and he's like, well, I only hope that the serpent heart has not been returned, because if it has, we're screwed. Cut back over to Maya. The ninjas are after her. She takes some punches, takes some kicks, does what she can to fight off, and she's like, oh, just say something. These stupid ninjas are all so quiet. And then she gasps as she sees the leader of the ninjas, says, never mind, shut up, I don't want to hear you say a thing. It's Talia. Talia's like, hey, Badnesi is Al Ghul territory. Like, you should have known what you were stepping on sticking around here. What's wrong with you? Anyway, you got 5 seconds to explain how you betrayed us before we straight up murder you. Cut back over to Damien. Whatever the serpent heart is has already been placed back into this altar. There's a bunch of dead bodies of Darga people around. And all of a sudden, a bunch more pop up, and they start attacking Damien, and he's just like, oh, in the name of the Luen Darga, you're sentenced. And then Goliath just punches him out, and he's like, oh, sentenced to what, huh? Sentenced to dumbfound you, to defeat you? What were you going to say there? So, as only one of them's left, Goliath's got him in a chokehold, and just like, all right, how many of you died showing up here? Like, this was the dumbest thing you guys could have possibly done. He's like, oh, it was the honor of 22 of us to be able to act as servants. And Damien's like, Jesus Christ, all right, whatever, I don't care, go away. So we see that the serpent's heart starts reacting. The skeleton that it has been embedded in, the ribs start becoming snakes, and all the bones start becoming snakes. So Damien has to run off. He's like, Goliath, come on, we got to go. This whole place turned into snakes. And apparently the power has quadrupled because it was stolen in the first place. And so the Luen Darga stole whatever these things are right from under his nose, and they don't have time to like worry about suspicions as to how it would have happened, because if all of them get back to their locations and are working again, then we're all going to die. So the next one is half a world away, and they fly off to take care of it. We cut over to Maya on Talia's speedboat, and she's like, look, the Luen Darga killed a bunch of people. That might have just been incidental. Of course, they're licking their wounds, doing whatever. But them showing like up here, were they here to meet with you? And she's like, no, that's crazy. Those people tried to kill us in the previous arc. Why would I ever bother with that? And it's like, look, only 3 people knew about Damien's vault. My servant, my son, and you. But I don't think it's the servant. It's definitely not my son, so that leaves you. And he's like, oh, you think I would sell out Damien? He's my friend. And what, to the Darga? Do I look suicidal? And Talia's like, yeah, all of their followers are suicidal. That's the whole thing. That's why it's a problem. So anyway, I'm going to put you on my ship. We're going to borderline torture you. And if I don't believe that you're telling me the truth, then whoopsie doodles, an accident might just happen. And Maya's just like, wait, I swear it wasn't me. She's like, no. I don't want to hear your denials. Nothing you can explain to me until you can tell me who could have possibly done this. We cut back over to some of the Darga who are making their way through a heavily big forest in the Congo Basin. And then an orb pops up and just like laser slices this guy into multiple chunks. And he falls down to the ground dead. And we see that it may have been the Darga kid, whose name is apparently Suren Darga, son of Den Darga, who killed him. And he's like, oh, I accept your death as a tribute to my servant. And he looks up in the sky and sees Damien approaching. And he's like, well, his death will sweeten our accomplishments once we return the next artifact into its rightful place in Gorilla City. And we cut into Gorilla City, where a bunch of gorillas are trying to shoot at the Darga kid, but it ain't working. Okay. I said on record, somewhere around issue 5, I didn't like the Darga stuff. And that was when it was Gleason writing. And it was all just like 100% because it felt like an overly complicated storyline with all this lore that frankly came out of nowhere. It didn't feel like it was properly explained. It was a problem. The fact that we're coming back to it does frustrate me. I think that it is a little bit more of like, what the hell are you talking about? Why are we going back to this in this last few issues here? But I will give it the credit that it seems like it's streamlined down. It feels like this time around is a lot easier to understand. There aren't as many grand ideas and big things like that. It is absolutely just saying, this kid is trying to put everything back that Damien had stolen, but like it's not like Damien knows not to do that now, so now it's just a race to try to stop him from doing it. And we're going to go location to location until they probably meet up in issue 12. Fine. Good. I'm okay with that. It makes sense to me. It's smaller scale. It's working for me. I think my only critique I would really have is bringing Maya back. And that's not because I don't like Maya as a character. I actually really do like her as a companion to Damien. The reason I don't want her back is that they just took the time to write her off. Like, if you wanted to bring her back in the final issue of her saying, like, hey, yeah, I didn't want to leave you alone. What are you talking about? Fine, fair. But her being dragged back into it, that feels weird considering we just had her, quote unquote, find happiness or be able to get out of that life at the very least. So it's only going to be 3 issues. It's only going to be till issue 12. Whatever we do is whatever we do. I'm not that worried about it. It at least feels fine. It feels good. So I'm going to say 7.5. Don't really have that big of a problem with it. Looking forward to how it turns out, but I'm not expecting anything big. Titans Hunt number 6, written by Dan Abnett, art by Steven Segovia. So last issue, I mean, all the different arcs increased. We had Robin, or Nightwing, Wonder Girl, and Aqualad fighting against Goliath. Hawk and Dove were fighting against Arsenal and Narc. And I think Mal was just being absorbed by Mr. Twister. So we open with that part. Mal is at the piano, instrument of torture thing. He's singing his song and he's just like, yeah, he always was, Malcolm Duncan was always musical. He always did this stuff with music. But there was always one particular song that he was born to sing. And now he's singing it and it sucks and it's causing him pain. And it is the last track as the credits roll at the end of the world. So as this song is playing, Mr. Twister's like, oh, no one's going to save you. No one's coming to rescue you. We see that the song is affecting everybody across all the different storylines, including Bumblebee, Karen. But first we focus over on Narc and Hawk, who are fighting. And Hawk's like, can you hear it? Can you hear that sound? And Narc's like, yeah, punch. Just knocks out Hawk. Steps up to Dove and he's like, I am Narc. I am Dove. Are we going to fight? I'm hoping not to. Okay. So Arsenal gets up at that point, just like, okay, well, I don't know what's happening, but like, does anyone else hear that? Cut over to the fight with Goliath and all them. Donna is about to get smashed because she's distracted by the music. And Nightwing's like, of course I can hear it too, but we got to ignore that. We got bigger things right now. Aqualad's been knocked out of the fight here, so we just got to do what we can. I might have said Goliath up until this point. His name is Mammoth. Mammoth is just like, or they're like, oh, Mammoth, I recognize him. I've got some vague memories, but he's never been feral like this. He's always at least had some mind to him. So he's being controlled to some extent. So Nightwing gets flipped, thrown into a tree. He's out of the fight. Donna sees the tower in the distance that Mala's on top of, just like, well, that's clearly where I got to go. So you're not going to stop me from getting to it, Mammoth. And then we cut back over to Karen, who's talking to this guy. His name turns out to be Maud. We'll get to it. But he's basically like, oh, you said you heard a sound, Miss Duncan? Just like, yes, it's still ringing in my head. What is you got to help me find my husband. He's like, oh, I totally am. Just like you were saying some other crazy stuff. So go ahead, explain what is happening. And he's like, okay, let's find a quiet place. We'll go do it. Some assistant of Mal comes up and is like, hey, Karen, is everything good? And he's like, yeah, totally. Just let me know if you find my husband. Otherwise, I'm going to be out talking to this guy. So she wants to know what this Mr. Twister thing is. And this is where we kind of get the answer. This is the story of everything that's happened so far. And it comes from Lilith talking to everyone now that they've calmed down. So Arsenal, Narc, Hawk, and Dove. And just like 5 years ago, all of us were there, except for you. And she points to Dove. And Dove's like, what about me? And she's like, you shouldn't even exist. I don't know who you are. Get out of here. So at that point, she's just like, yeah, okay. Hawk is rambling. He's just like, oh, when he calls, we come running and they die. People die. And Arsenal's like, everyone shut up. I'm just talking to Lilith. Hey, you were my counselor helping me through stuff, and now you're saying that we knew each other beforehand? Did you lie to me? And she's like, no, it was necessary, okay? Like, we had to forget who we were, the names we used, everything, just in order to survive. We deliberately forgot each other. And Dove's like, how did you do that? She's like, I'm a Class A psychic. I can just do this stuff. Like, it's not even a problem. So Arsenal's like, okay, well, if you know this stuff, how come we don't? How come you know all this? And she's like, oh, well, about a year ago, Mr. Twister started whispering the truth in my head. So we cut back over to the mammoth fight. Donna's just kicking, punching, doing everything. She's like, oh, I am a Themyscirian. I could kill you easily. You know why I don't? Because screw you. I'm not going to play by that game. And she basically says, yeah, I see you're trying to break me, but pain does not break me. I'm Donna Troy, bitch. So she does some major uppercuts. Mammoth's still standing strong, though. Cut back over to Karen, and she's getting the same explanation from this mod guy, the Mr. Richards, and he's just like, look, Mr. Twister's just a name. He's not a guy. He's a demon. He's much more demonic. He exists outside the world, and he's always trying to get in. Karen's like, this sounds stupid, and he's like, it gets worse. There has to be a certain ritual to allow him to get access to our plane of existence. He can't do it alone. About 5 years ago, he controlled the entire team and forced them to assist him, and he made them help, but they prevailed, but they had to sacrifice. They had to sacrifice something to stop the ritual from happening, which meant they forget who they are and they have no recollection whatsoever. And Karen's like, okay, so what? He's back now? It's like, well, he's trying to do the same thing again. He's restoring their memories, and Mal is super important to the middle of that. So he's going to create as many slaves as possible. He does the whole demon thing of offering them things that he wants and giving them powers or whatever, and then they just serve him willingly. So I ask you, Karen, when did you first start getting your superpowers? So we cut away from the fight. Garth has rejoined Aqualad's inn, and between the two powerhouses of Donna and Aqualad, they managed to take down Mammoth, so he's out for a little bit. Going back to Lilith, Lilith is just like, yeah, okay, I resisted Mr. Twister. I tried to protect you all. I tried to warn you, and then he just kept pushing, so yeah, now we all know this stuff. And Narc is like, okay, but like, why tell us now? Like, isn't that worse for us? And it's just like, yeah, but you already know this stuff. He's summoning us for a ritual, and Mal's pain, him yelling out that sound we hear, is a lure for us to go to him. He wants to draw us in. And Arsenal's like, sounds like we need to go kick some ass. And Lilith goes, have you not been listening? No, we don't go anywhere near there. That's a really, really bad idea. So then we cut over to the Nightwing team, and as they've knocked out Mammoth, Nightwing's like, hey, teamwork, good job, guys, you did it. Anyway, I think we need to go to the big glowy tower off in the distance. Let's go. So Karen talks to Mod, and he's just like, look, I don't have superpowers. And he's like, okay, good. That means Mr. Twister probably didn't get you. Excuse me, I got to go make a call. So he steps out, and he's like, hey, everything's too messed up. This is way too quick. Harold's already started singing. It's too late to save them. We're just going to have to destroy his slaves before he can use them. And he says, as moderator of Diablo, I am issuing the sanction order, eliminate the Teen Titans now. And he returns back in to talk to Karen, but we never see what actually happens there, because over where Lilith and everyone else is, they're just like, okay, yeah, no, we're gonna chill back, we're gonna do whatever. And Hawk is like, wait a minute, hold on, I am like 99% sure somebody died. Who died? And Lilith is like, I don't know, I don't have memory of somebody dying. Twister's been selective. Like, he doesn't want us to recover memories that are going to not have us join in the rest of the fight. So maybe you remember something the rest of us don't. And Dove is like, I mean, you said I shouldn't be here. Was there another Dove before I was Dove? And Hawk seems like he's remembering, but then there's a big old explosion. They're all left scrambling. And in step Diablo, which Lilith seems to recognize, saying, oh no, it's Diablo. And it's just two people that go by the name of Daddy and Honey Bun. And they're wearing big old black sweatshirts with DD and HB for Daddy and Honey Bun. Who the hell are these guys? I don't know. Look, I've been asking for this explanation issue. I think it's good. I think it works. I think it's fine. It doesn't require you to have a deep knowledge of the Titans. It doesn't require you to know everything about what's going on. That being said, I am like 90% sure that the Hawk and Dove series at the beginning of the New 52 explicitly said, no, there was definitely a Dove before Dawn Granger. Like, that was 100% a thing. So we got a little bit of retconning here. Look, you're just going to have to roll with it. There's always going to be a little bit of retconning. This book is essentially just set in its own little side tangent universe over here, and you just need to accept that we have to erase certain things from the New 52 to make this work. Overall, it's fine. It's a good issue. I like the explanation. Mr. Twister, still a little confusing as a character, but it feels like it's deliberately so instead of just I'm missing things. So I'm going to say this one is, I'll just say 7. I think it's good. It's solid, but it does feel a little bit like, okay, this is the exposition issue. We're just going to sit down and we're going to talk the whole time and nothing else is really going to matter, because the mammoth fight was just absolutely there to just add a little bit of fight scene in the middle of this. So yeah, 7 for this. Let's see how we wrap it up in the next 2 issues. Poison Ivy, Cycle of Life and Death, number 3, written by Amy Chu, art by Clay Mann and Steven Segovia. So last issue, Poison Ivy gave quote-unquote birth to some flower babies, and then something killed one of the other professors at the botanical garden. So we open up with that second bit. The cops are checking it out, and they're like, Jesus Christ, this guy, like, he was old, but, like, we don't need a body bag. We need a shovel. He is basically just dust and bone. What could have done this to him? And they're all looking around like, okay, clearly something bigger is going on here. We do have one witness to this murder, though, and it's this same guy who was going on previously with the other murder. So let's go talk to him. And it's Darshan, and they're like, all right, tell us what happened. And he's like, I don't know. I showed up here. I was talking to Dr. Isley, Pam, and she had to leave for some emergency. I went to go wrap up my stuff in the lab. I heard a noise from Grimley's office. When I stepped in, something pushed by me, and then he was dead on the ground. And they're like, hold on. What do you mean something? Was it a person? And he's like, I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. Like, it just looked like a thing. And the cop's like, God damn, okay. Can anyone tell us where Pamela Isley is? Because now she's, like, officially a person of interest here. Cut over to Pam's house, and she's just looking over the babies, and they are already looking like they're at least a year old. And just like, wow, you're developing so quickly here. And she breaks down that the babies are independent. There are 2 people of their own being. One is named Rose, and Rose has a natural talent to communicate with plants. The other is Hazel, and she is quiet, but she has the ability to grow vegetation. So it's basically just Poison Ivy's abilities split into 2. And she's like, okay, look, I gotta go get back to the lab, see what all is going on there. I'm gonna put you guys inside these big plants that look like orchids, and I'm calling them nannies. They are plant nannies. They will protect you. So she makes her way back to the lab an hour later, and Darshan's like, Jesus, Pam, where have you been? Grimsley's dead. And she's like, what? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. They're closing down the whole place. Like, this whole thing's going to go down. And Pam's like, oh, okay, well, I need to go get my stuff before they do that. I need to get into the lab. And Darshan's like, are you kidding? Did you not hear what I just said? And he's like, yeah, well, whoever killed Grimsley is also after my stuff, but my stuff is still here somewhere in the building. So I got to go get it. And Darshan's like, the police aren't going to let you by. He's like, the police can't stop me. But at that point, the police show up and just like, hey, we got a few questions for you, Miss Isley. What exactly was your relationship with Eric Grimley? And Pam's like, this is ridiculous. I need to get to my lab. It's like, no, don't think so. So she basically says how she doesn't have time for this. She's being extremely annoying, or, combative. That's the term. And she's basically saying, like, look, what's up with the police here? Grimley's right-hand man found out about me, but for some reason not telling the police. What is his card to play in all this? However, as the cops are arguing with Pam, one of them gets a call from the chief of police, and the chief puts the other one on, and he's just like, what? Are you kidding me? Seriously? And Pam's this whole time, her eyes are glowing. She's like, I could just snap their necks. I could just kill them all right now. I could get out of this easily. But it would cause me a lot more problems later on, so I probably shouldn't do that. And then the cop turns around and says, well, we haven't even arrested you, but you're already free to go. Like, you must have some friends in high places. And she's like, didn't think I did, but all right, great. So as she's walking around, just like, all right, well, I'm just going to go home, be glad I didn't kill anybody back there. And the cops are like, yeah, that's Not incriminating at all. Yeah, we need to specifically pay attention to that lady. Whatever's going on with her, for her to have someone who can call in that quickly, something's up. So she makes her way back home, and she calls out for the baby. She hears some crying, so she immediately rushes in. The nanny plants are destroyed, but there's a bunch of bloody footprints, and it seems that the plants did do their job of protecting the children. So she comes over and she's like, oh, tell me, kids, what did you see? And as she cradles the kids, there's this horrific looking monster bug thing on the roof, and as Pam looks back, it's gone. So I guess that's the threat. She sets up a bunch of why am I playing on the name? The plant eaters, the things from Little Pet Shop of Horrors, that thing, you know what I'm saying. The thing where she set up a whole bunch of them in like a circle around the flycatchers, that's it. So she set up a bunch of Venus flytraps around the kids and just like, okay, well, these things are going to keep out any more unwanted intruders. And then her doorbell rings, and standing there is Winston, the guy who covered for her and gave her an alibi the first time around, who is a creep. And she's come over to Pam's house and just like, hey, you know, I heard what happened down at the lab. Figured you want somebody here to protect you. And she's like, I'm good. Does anybody else know you're here? And he's like, nope, just me and you. And she's like, all right, why don't you step inside? And he's like, oh, yeah, awesome. So he gets into Pam's house, and Pam's like, oh, yeah, surprised I live in such a big place. And he's like, yeah, how do you afford this on your own dime? Like, I don't make anywhere near this much. He's like, I got some patents or whatnot. And then he sees the babies, and he's like, oh, I didn't realize you had kids. All right, that's something. And she's like, what do you want, Winston? He's just like, well, look, I'm willing to keep covering for you. You know, I gave you that alibi and all that. But how about a little bit of quid pro quo, you know? How about we make things even here a little bit? I won't say anything, you know, if you... And she's like, don't say any more, please. I'm going to throw up. How about you step further inside, and I will change into something more comfortable. And he's like, nice, awesome. And so he's standing out on the balcony. She comes out. She's all in shadow. We eventually see she's in her poison ivy garb. And she's basically saying, like, you know, your jokes and innuendo are wearing pretty thin. And he's like, you know you want me. And she's like, yes, fair enough. Gives him a kiss. It's toxic. He's dead. He just, like, falls to the ground. And then all the carnivorous plants just start jumping on top of him. Then the doorbell rings again. And Pam's like, son of a bitch. And it's Darshan, and Darshan's like, hey, can I bug you? Like, I need to talk about this stuff. And she's like, how about I meet you downstairs? We can go out for coffee or something. So she just puts on a trench coat, doesn't bother changing, leaves the babies alone. And as she's down there, Darshan's like, man, this look, I know you need to get into your lab. I have a buddy who works in construction and city planning and all that. Here's the blueprints to the electrical grid or whatever of the lab, of the botanical garden. So they look over this whole thing and says that there's this whole unused wing that's draining a whole lot of power. It has a whole lot of hookups. So Pam's like, yep, that's where my stolen research is. We're going to have to get inside. And they do the bit where they both reach for the same coffee. And as soon as that happens, Pam's like, okay, well, I'm out. And she just leaves. And Darshan's like, oh, wait, you forgot your glasses. So Pam goes back up to her roof. Turns out she makes a call to Catwoman, because, of course, Catwoman can break into any sort of area like that. Catwoman's like, oh, yeah, you know, what's up? And she's like, oh, I need a little bit of help. And then all of a sudden, there's loud noises behind them. Turns out Darshan followed Pam back to her apartment, has now seen her as Poison Ivy, sees her talking to Catwoman, and is tied up in a bunch of vines, all because he was trying to return her glasses. Womp womp. I like the issue in so much as furthering this mystery aspect, furthering this idea of, okay, well, who killed them? Who did that? What was this big bug thing? Is that also tied into all that? I'm down with that. My only thing is we're now 3 issues in. What are we doing about these kids? That's what's getting to me. Like, this is a 6-issue series. She gave essentially birth last issue, and this issue, it doesn't feel like we're doing anything with them. We get the briefest of introductions, and then it's just, okay, well, you guys hang around because we're going to deal with other stuff. I mean, if the kids age up significantly over the course of, like, next issue and the issue afterwards, maybe we can do something with it, but I don't know. It feels so weird to me that we introduce Rose and Hazel, and then we're just doing nothing with them. I mean, beyond that, it's beautifully well drawn. Clayman and Steven Segovia do a great job. Don't really have any issues with that. It's just a slow burn mystery, and I'm all right with that here. So, yeah, I'll say I'll give it a 7.5. I'm good with that. I think it could have been higher if we had some sort of promise as to what's going to happen with these kids, but if that's going to be part of the larger mystery, then fair enough. We can hold off as long as it feels satisfying in the end. Green Arrow number 50, written by Benjamin Percy, art by Szymon Kudranski. This is, of course, the anniversary issue, double big issue, a lot of extra pages. Last time we had Oliver finally getting some treatment for his leukos, so he's no longer full werewolf sort of stuff. And we see a war is brewing between the leukos-infected people and I think they were called the Patriots, something like that. It's a whole thing. So this issue picks up at a blood bank down in the bad side of town. And this guy's sitting there as a receptionist, and this shady figure with claws for fingers comes in, and he's like, I'd like to donate blood, and he gives him a form, and the guy with the claws points to a line, and he's like, oh yeah, that line, have you ever been diagnosed or been in contact with anyone with a chronic or alien illness? And the shady figure pulls off the helmet. It's Merrick. It's the head of the Leukos werewolves, and he's like, do I really need to answer? And he busts through the glass, grabs the guy, and says, put the closed sign up, open the doors to let my friends in, ready the needles. We're going to be donating a lot of blood tonight. So we cut over to Arrow. It's a full week later. He's sitting there talking to Henry, and they're just looking for any sort of lead, anywhere they can go. They've come up with the idea that there are about 900 people in the Seattle area that are infected with Leukos, so they're having to deal with all that, but a lot of them are more or less unregistered, so it's a guessing game at best. And when they're trying to figure out, wait a minute, people haven't been reporting bites, people haven't been reporting scratches of like animals attacking, how is it that this many have been infected? They come up with a tainted blood bank. They're just like, oh, there's been this place on this bad side of town that gives cash for blood, and it seems like everyone who used any of the bags here has been infected essentially. And he's just like, wait a minute, but like, don't they do screenings, all this stuff? And Henry points out it's a blood shortage. The hospitals are taking whatever they can get. They're lowering a little bit on the protocols they should in order to theoretically save lives. So we cut over to Merrick showing that he is absolutely like, yep, I'm going to spread this infection. This entire city will be infected and all that. Also, Henry has come up with a separate thing entirely of noticing that this one guy, whose name is Jeffrey Paragon, is involved. And Oliver's like, oh, I know. He was someone who was investing in my father when he started Queen Industries. Like, he should be ancient. And it's like, yeah, he's like 130 years old, if not older. And somehow he's still alive. And we see he's essentially just like a vampire. He's sitting in this bed, blood bags after blood bags, all feeding into him. And he's asking his helper, whatever her name may be, like, oh, have we heard from the mercenary? And it's like, oh, we thought he was in North Korea, but it was a dead end. And he's just like, oh, damn, I could be dead in a week. Give me another transfusion. So at that point, Henry's just like, all right, well, I'm going to send a scout to go deal with the Paragon Mansion. You can go check out the blood centers. And he's like, wait, what do you mean a scout? Are you sending out Emmy? And she's like, no. During our last thing, when you fought against that Nazi guy who had the robots or whatever, I hijacked one and changed its programming. So now it's our new little pet drone. So now we cut over to Liberia, and we meet up with this guy. There's an outbreak in this small little village. There's a quarantine for Ebola. And we see this one kid is infected. All of his family has already died. Everything sucks. And this one guy who's in full hazmat gear steps up and says, I've got him. I'll take care of him. And as he brings him inside, the guy starts taking off his hazmat suit, and the narration tells us that there is a legend about a doctor who shows up and just cures all wounds, and he goes by the name of Dr. Miracle. And we see this guy takes a syringe of his own blood and injects it into the kid, and the kid immediately wakes up and is just totally healed. However, a woman nearby sees this happening and screams out, that man's a witch! He just used blood magic! Everyone go after the witch man! And so they all start pointing and yelling and running after him, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't have enough blood to go around. And as they're trying to go get him, He shoves his way out, steals a truck from one of the other doctors, and peels out. And he's like, oh, God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't do that. And the narration basically says, well, for whatever reason, he definitely doesn't want to be found. So we go back to Arrow. He goes over to the blood bank. There's a lookout outside who's smoking a cigarette. And he comes down next to her just being like, huh, weird. The sign says closed, yet you're still acting as a lookout. What's going on here? And she breathes some smoke in his face. He's like, I can smell the Lucos on you. It smells like blood. Yeah, you're infected just as much as anyone else. And she's like, yeah, and I can tell you are too, but you're on the meds, so you should, I could smell the dog on you from 50 yards away. And we get this whole thing that Arrow lights some papers on fire, throws it in through the window, starts smoking out the building. It acts as a distraction. He's just standing out there with his bow drawn. And as he does, he sees the civilian doctor come to the door. He's like, crap. I didn't know there'd be civilians involved in this. So as it happens, the Patriots, I'm going to call them that because I can't remember their name. Patriots come up and they already know what's happening. They've tracked the same things that Arrow has. So he's like, oh, we heard a rumor that there's some puppies holed up in here. And they just shoot the guy dead at the door. And he's like, well, maybe this will get your attention. They kick over all the Lucos bikes and start pissing on them. And once they do that, the voice from behind from Merrick says like, oh, throughout history, you've criminalized us, shot us, disrespected us. We just want to be treated like anybody else. And the Patriots are like, you're a disease. Bang, bang, bang. So a big fight breaks out. Oliver's just left on the side, his bow still drawn. And he's like, I don't know whose side I'm on here. Like, the infecting the whole city thing is like really, really bad. And the killing people thing who are infected with an illness is also really, really bad. I think I'm going to sit this one out. And he just like takes the bow down and he's like, maybe they're going to like ruin each other. Maybe I just let that happen for a while. So we see that Merrick grabs one of the Patriots and he's like, oh, you're the same one who shotgunned me at the parade. I should kill you, but instead I'm going to do this. And he takes a big bite out of the guy's arm. And it's like, now you're going to become what you hate. And he walks off. The guy is like, Jimmy, get the chainsaw. And Jimmy revs up a chainsaw and says, cut off my arm before it spreads. This dude cuts off his own arm so as to not be fully infected. We go to Oliver's house. He's looking very upset about the whole thing. He's talking with Emmy and he's like, look, I think that the Lucos meds have slowed me down a little bit. I'm not as like clear and focused or anything like that as I have been. That's understandable. That's fine. But here's the big problem. All of the heroes out there go out and they do what they think is right. What they know in their gut is right. But me, I have to actively think about that stuff. I am doing this all as penance for me being a billionaire playboy like screwball who ruined everything and then was abandoned on an island. Heroics don't naturally come to me. I need to be thinking about it. With the Lucos drugs, my mind is clouded. I'm not trusting my own instincts or anything like that. Before, when I was on the Lucos, I was 100% it. I was just going for it. Like it was 100% like I was all that. So I think that I need to get off the cure in order to make the right decision in the situation. And he rips off his little diabetes monitor pack and throws it into the river. And he's like, well, I hope that didn't hit someone in the head. But other than that, I'm feeling better already. So Emmy gasps. She's like, oh my God, what's that? And Oliver's like, okay, I haven't started changing already. But then the drone thing appears in the door. And Henry's like, ha, I never told you, Emmy. Do you need to go change your pants? And she's like, shut up. So turns out he's been at the house of that millionaire guy, the Paragon guy. And it's like, you guys are going to want to see this. And he plays back a hologram recording. And he basically says like, oh, your guest has arrived. Or, sorry, the other person says your guest has arrived. He's like, oh, the world's greatest mercenary. I paid him and we still haven't found him. And then the knife comes in and Deathstroke introduces himself saying, hey, no disrespect in me, okay? I'll take you out if that's what it means. And the Paragon's basically like, oh, what news do you bring? And he's like, well, promising. I've got a lead on him. The miracle worker. I know where he is. Apparently he's down in Nigeria. So I'm going to go there and get him. And he's like, what are you waiting for? Go. There's not a minute to lose. And Deathstroke grabs all the blood bags, stops the blood flow. So for a second, he's like, I can't help but feel like you need a reminder. You should be dead. You are being kept alive way past your prime here because of this stuff. So how badly do you want this? And he's like, oh, more than anything, his blood can cure my disease. It can preserve me and regenerate me and all that. And Deathstroke's like, all right, then how about this as an extra deal? If I get the miracle worker to you in a week, you get $5 million. If I don't, then don't worry about it. We'll just call it even. And he's like, fantastic, a week? Yeah, no, I'll take it. Let's go. I'm going to get up here. I'm going to do a dance. So at that point, Deathstroke does point out the hypocrisy. He's like, you do understand that this guy, if he's left out there to do his own thing, could save millions of lives. Like, he's helping the world. Like, you do understand that he's benefiting people. And the old guy's just like, what, in Africa? Screw Africa. Who gives a damn about that place? So we then cut over to Deathstroke flying there. The arrow jet is above being cloaked, and Emmy's like, how good's the cloaking? Because Deathstroke, I feel like, is pretty good at that stuff. And he's like, it works for the most part, as long as we're not, like, really pushing it. And then Emmy calls out, like, okay, but, like, really, how bad is this guy? Like, he's named Deathstroke. Like, I bet he sleeps with a teddy bear because he's overcompensating so much. And Green Arrow's like, no. This guy's up to snuff. Like, he will absolutely murder us all. Like, do not question whether or not he's up for it. So as they fly over this area in Nigeria, a couple people on the ground have some rocket launchers. They fire up a Deathstroke ship. He manages to dodge out of the way. However, because he dodges, it causes him to essentially be over top of the Aerojet now, to which point they see each other, and Deathstroke's like, have I not killed you yet? I swear to God, I keep meaning to get around to that. Oh well. And he fires off some missiles at the Aerojet. So they need to bail out. By the way, George the dog is with them. So they jump out of the jet, they land down on the ground, and as they land, we get a few cut arounds where we go to the Patriots, who the Seattle police commissioner or the mayor, whoever's like, Lucas will now be quarantined. We're treating them as second-class citizens. We're going to take care of it because that is what we must do. And we see the one Patriot who had his arm cut off. Apparently he's not infected. He's got a stump, though. He's very messed up from the whole thing. And the narration is basically saying the history of man is a history of war. In the entire human history, there's only been 200 recorded days where somebody has not been at war. Like, that's what we do. And he's basically saying, my city's at war, my body's at war, my whole world is at war. And as he lands down in Africa, they're immediately surrounded by a bunch of warlord-looking guys, all with machine guns. So he's like, oh, if I could find a cure, it would take a miracle. All right. Double-size issue. Yeah, I mean, it feels like it is. I do feel the extra length. It doesn't feel like it's padding it out either. So kudos on that. It doesn't really feel like an issue 50. I will say that much. It doesn't feel like this is a turning point or like an anniversary of like, look at all the things that Green Arrow did. That being said, I do really, really like this doesn't come naturally speech. I think it's an interesting character dynamic because, you know, all of these DC heroes, all the heroes pretty much across superhero fiction are these heroes where it's like, yeah, no, I naturally know what's right. I am always able to make a good decision. Or you sometimes do have characters wrestling with the idea of making a good decision, all that, but it's always with like, you know, they're born with the best intentions. I appreciate that looking at Oliver, it comes down to this idea that no, he was a party boy. He made horrible decisions, and that's in his DNA. That's something he has to consciously fight against. It's an interesting dynamic, and I think that I wouldn't want it to be permanently something about the character. I don't want it to be this thing that we keep coming back to, but it allows for a good story arc to show him overcoming it, to show him like, no, instinctually, I now know what to do right. I've overcome my past. I am something new, something more. That sort of stuff seems like such an interesting dynamic. So, yeah, I mean, we've only got like 2 issues left of this series. I'm sure he gets cured. I'm sure we don't go into Rebirth with him still being a werewolf, but now we've at least got the method at which it's going to work. So we'll see how far that goes, whether or not the werewolves, like Maddox and all them, will be cured as well, whether or not the Patriots are going to go down. I'm sure it's going to be a mix of thereof. So this one I'm going to say, I'll give it the 8. I think it deserves at least that much. It's a very well done issue, looks great, so yeah, enjoyed myself. Black Canary number 9, written by Matthew Rosenberg, art by Moritat. So this is absolutely just a fill-in issue. I don't know why it was made. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but this is an issue that takes place before pretty much anything else in the story. Like, it is set during the period when they were still working very small shows, and like people knew about the band Black Canary, but ultimately not anything like blowout or anything. So we see that they arrive at essentially a warehouse, it looks like, and they are met by a mother whose name is Allegra Madden, and she's like, oh yes, you must be the band. I've hired you to perform at my daughter's birthday party because she loves you so much, and you know, I just want to make her happy. And then now comes this little blonde-haired girl who's like, I don't know, 12 years old, and her name's Julia Madden, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm your biggest fan in the whole world, and I can't believe I'm getting to meet you, and like I've seen all your music videos and listened to all your song, and of course I said, hey, I want to play someone to play my birthday, and I said Black Canary, and then I picked you, and during this whole thing, the band's just like, oh my god, okay, well, happy birthday, I guess, happy to be here. The other thing that they keep on saying is how they don't know why they're doing this, and part of it, like one of the people is like, oh, it's for the fans, and then another person's like, it's for the money. And as this girl is showing like how much she's geeking out, they're just like, okay, yeah, it's for the money, we're doing this for the money, it's all good. The girl also brings up something about Louis Barbier, who has RSVP'd, and how she wants him to be her boyfriend as they dance to one of the songs or whatever. And the mom has to step in saying like, honey, we talked about this. Louis's family got into a tiff with the Madden family, and they will not be showing up tonight. Understood? And he's like, okay, mother. So the girl runs off, and the mom's just like, look, I'm giving you 30 minutes to play. You start at 9 o'clock sharp. I don't want anything else on there. Do you understand? And she walks off. She leaves them alone to be by themselves. But then as soon as she leaves, in through the front door comes a group of gangsters led by famed gangster Tobias Whale. I don't know where the hell we last saw Tobias Whale. I remember him being in a DC Universe Presents story way back at the beginning of New 52. But regardless, Black Canary recognizes him and starts trying to kick his ass. And Miss Madden jumps in, just being like, hey, what are you doing? Mr. Whale here is a welcome member. He's a friend of the family, everything like this. And he's like, yeah, I got my invitation right here. Nice to see you, Madden. And don't worry, this little blonde doesn't kick as hard as she thinks. And immediately Miss Madden turns to Black Canary. She's like, I should kick you out right now for treating a guest like that. How dare you? And she's like, he's a known murderer. What are you talking about? And she's like, he is a businessman, and he has had his name dragged through the mud by the Wayne-owned media. So I don't want to be hearing nothing more from you. And Black Canary's like, quick question. You say he's a family friend. Who's your family? Like, where do you descend from? She's like, oh, I'm the daughter of Carmine Falcone. And immediately Canary's like, oh my god, okay, all right, fair enough. So she's forced to just sit back as more and more inherently bad guys arrive. Hugo Strange, Black Mask, Professor Pig. And she's just down in alcohol the whole time until finally one guy steps up and is like, hey, so you with the band or something? And she just snaps his fingers and walks away. And this whole thing, she's like, oh, yes, just remember, we're happy to do the show. We're all doing this for the fans and all that. And she busts in through the door, talks to the band saying, like, we're not playing the show. It sucks. We're not doing this. And as she's talking to the group, it turns out that they're already associating with Valentine Chan. I don't even know if this is a callback. However, she immediately recognizes, saying like, oh yeah, I guess the real scumbags have started showing up. And they basically talk about Waller back in the day and all this stuff, and saying like, oh yeah, well, I left the team. You were thrown out. And we get an image here to show that we're talking about Team 7, which for anybody who didn't read Team 7, yeah, there's a reason for that. So he basically says like, yeah, we worked together, but now this Valentine Chan guy is leaving. And he's like, oh, well, I'm here for the same reason you are, to get paid. And Canary's like, I don't know what you're talking about if you're not playing a song. So they have a little fight. He pulls out a knife, and then immediately she just gives him a hug and just says like, oh, Val, such a prankster. So good to see you. Get out now while you still have your hands. Bye. So he ends up leaving, but he leaves his briefcase behind, and inside is a photo of Julia Madden with a circle around it that says target, and then there's like 7 other pictures of different guys in here, along with a note that says, other agents have been hired. You all will be paid the full amount once the target is taken out. Do not interfere with each other. So turns out that the club has been filled with assassins, all here on Julia's birthday in order to kill her. And this is where we get a holding of Black Canary saying, all right, well, the show's still on so that we can take out these assassins beforehand. And we see Canary going through all the people who were pictured, tracking them down, taking them out. But they have to be on stage at exactly 9 p.m. And as the clock ticks down, there were 6 other men. She only got 5 of them. So as they get to the stage, Canary walks out with just seconds left as the curtains come up, starts doing her show. And as she's playing for like 20 minutes or something like that, Canary nods over to her other bandmates and she's like, I couldn't get them all. I only got 5 of them. Like, what are we supposed to do? We got to keep playing and keep an eye on Julia. So they look out into the crowd, and then the one last guy comes up. And Canary throws her microphone in the crowd to like knock the guy down, yells for Julia to run. Julia can't hear her without the microphone. So Dinah picks up a tiki torch and causes it to set a sprinkler off, causing everyone to start scrambling. Dinah starts fighting a bunch of people down in the audience trying to make her way through. The whole place starts going up in flames. But it turns out as she arrives, the guy's already got a gun trained on Dinah, and it's Lewis. It's the boyfriend from before. And she recognizes Lewis, Julie does, and Dinah ends up kicking him in the face, wasting the rest of his clip, and knocking him out. And as the fires go down from the sprinklers and all of the rest of the stuff is taken care of, police start coming in. Julia walks over and is just like, what did you do? We were supposed to become boyfriend and girlfriend tonight. And she's like, he tried to kill you. He was a trained assassin. What are you talking about? It's like, oh, he was supposed to be my boyfriend. And the mom comes in being like, how many times do I have to tell you we have a complex relationship and you did not improve it one bit this night? Julie's like, I hate you, Black Canary. I hate your music and I hate you. And as the mom walks away, she's like, it should be going without saying, none of you were getting paid for this tonight. And she's like, yeah, all right. And that's it. That's the issue. It's a bonkers issue, man. It's absolute insanity. I have no idea. Like, I think it's well done. I think that there's a pacing to it that it fits with the actual, like, normal writer of Brendan Fletcher. It does a good job of keeping that sort of pacing to it, making it more energetic. But, like, it's out there. It's a crazy issue. And especially it's doing some deep dives and some pulls here with, like, oh, yeah, Tobias Whale and all this other stuff. So, no, I mean, it's easily 7.5. I'm trying to think whether or not I give it the 8. I'd say yes. I'm going to give it the 8. I think that it's very well done. It gets a lot across without, having the benefit of setup from previous issues. All you know is really the bandmates, but it gets across the Madden family, what they're up for, all this sort of stuff. So no, I think it's a very well done issue. Don't know why it was just slipped in here in the middle, but hey, we got a couple more issues of Black Canary left to go, so we'll see how those turn out. Martian Manhunter number 10, written by Rob Williams, art by Eddie Barrows. So last issue, everyone had a part to play. They were rescuing the people of Mars. They had to go find this child of Mars and set a portal to send everything back in time. All the plans were being set into motion. So we open up with the 2 giant alien mechs taking off out of the planet's atmosphere. Agent Wessel is going through and he's climbing this cliff face. He's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be the hunter. I'm supposed to be the investigator part of John Jones, but I don't know where the hell I'm supposed to find this child in this giant ass mountain range on Mars. This is crazy. And as the planet is effectively dying because of its collision course with Earth, the cliff starts crumbling and he almost falls, but he's grabbed by Alicia, who pulls him up and she's like, you stayed. And he's like, I can't believe you're going to die here. You got to get back. You got to escape. And he's like, nah, a lot of those refugees are my people. That's what being a grown-up is, having to sacrifice for them. So he gets pulled up and he's like, yeah, so any idea how we can find this child of Mars? Because I'm looking around here and I don't see anything except for this cookie wrapper. And oh, look, there's another cookie wrapper and another one. And as they follow the trail of cookie wrappers, all of a sudden, one gets grabbed up by Mr. Biscuit's arm that pops out of the ground. And he's like, oh, hold on, there's a little bit left in that one. So he leads them into a cave, and he's like, yes, I was looking around, I was doing whatever. I think there's someone down here that you're going to want to listen to. And as they walk down the cave, we see he does apologize to Elise. He's like, look, I should have never left you. I was trying to protect you, but I am misshapen. And we see just a panel where she regresses back down to her child form, and she's like, oh, you're a stupid old stick insect. And she's like, ah, yes. So they make their way back to the Child of Mars, and Wessel's like, hi, we need you to drop the barrier that's in the sky that's keeping the refugees from escaping and allow them to get to Earth, like right now. And he's like, no. He's like, what do you mean no? He's like, look, does a planet ever intervene when a town has an earthquake or something like that? That's not how it works. And Alicia's like, wait, hold on, the child is actually like literally Mars itself? And Biscuit's like, yeah, he's the spirit of Mars. But take a closer look at him, and Wessel takes a look, and he just starts crying. And he's like, why am I crying? This doesn't make any sense. And the child's like, look, I was once the child of you, of John Jones, but now I belong to Mars. This is all going to end soon. Do you guys really want to know where you came from? You want to know what all's up? And he's like, yep, let's hear it. So at this, we basically just get full answers for the rest of the series. How did the split up happen? All that sort of stuff. So Mars was on a downturn. It was tired. It was exhausted. There was too much progress and greed. It was whatever. There was a tipping point, and the spirit of the planet itself tried to reach out to the people. It made a psychic call to get them to listen. Now, everybody saw this slightly differently. However, a lot of people saw this warning from the planet, this idea of, hey, change your ways or else bad things are going to happen, as a horrific Cthulhu monster in the sky, basically an external threat that they were saying like, oh, well, we can't, this isn't because of us, that's something else, that's nothing else. One of the people who saw it this way was Malaflach, and Affleck here is in front of a council saying, hey, we can take out this beast, we can do this thing, like I need all of Mars to rally behind me so that I can stand up and wipe out this nightmare. And some of the other councils like, a lot of people are reporting they didn't see it as that. They saw something else. They felt like a cry for help. And he's like, that's dumb. That's stupid. It was a Cthulhu monster. A lot of people saw it that way. And they're like, 16% of people didn't see shit. All right? No. We were going to fight. So as he's saying, he gets a little bit more desperate. He's like, Jones, what do you think? What did you see? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. And he turns to fear. He's not able to stand up for himself. So Jones at this point, they reveal he's not a warrior. He's not a big dude or anything like that. He is a writer and a poet who was revered for being the voice of Mars. He was able to condense Mars's soul into his own words, and he had a very environmental leaning message. But more importantly, he just cared about his family. And they had a child and a wife, and the wife was like, oh, you should go be a hero. We see that the plan for Malaflak is he's openly saying, we're going to take a whole bunch of Martians, we're going to have them all shapeshift together to form a bigger being, and that will allow us to take out this giant thing there, the ultimate Martian warrior. And all the volunteers, all the people who have been volunteered come up and they say, hey, we're going to be able to shapeshift back afterwards, right? Like, this isn't permanent. And Malaflak goes, uh-huh. So as John gets into the thing, he's like, oh, John, I needed you. You are the soul of my creation. You were lauded by the people. It had to be you. And he's like, any creation takes the form of the instigator. You are creating something as a monster for a monster. This will become a monster. And turns out that, of course, he lied. This wasn't a thing of shapeshifting them all together. Malaflak is using ancient horrible blood magic, and he just starts killing all the Martians, doing all this. Johns is already strapped down. He's like, oh yes, well, only a monster can defeat a monster. You must be naive not to see that. So he ends up trying to form that together, but because of the blood magic and because of all that stuff, it was the final desperate days of Mars. It was horrible for everyone, but out of it came the Martian Manhunter, this huge creature that had so much more power than any other normal Martian. And he comes after Malaflak. He's like, you murdered me. I had a life. I had a family. And Malaflak says, no time. You got to save Mars. This was all for Mars. Remember that, right? And he's just like, God damn it, all right, fine. So he goes off, literally like arms turned into guns, armor on his head, and he's like, all right, I'm the Martian Manhunter. That's my title now. I'm here to take you out. Show yourself, monster, and I'll murderize you. And the planet, being the planet, takes the form of something that Johns couldn't fight. It took the form of his son. And then John immediately just like cannot do anything. He's just like, oh, whoa, what? And he's like, look, you Martians, you are my children. You're the taking from my planet over and over again until now I have nothing left. I wanted to see what Mars was able to become when they were given the warning. Now I see, and I am not impressed. And Mars just died that day. Millions of years ago, it died. The atmosphere collapsed, everything was gone, and all the Martians died. And Biscuits is like, oh, I remember what happened next. I'm picking up on this part. And he said, a few small things escaped out into the cosmos. Maflek ran to Earth. He ran to that crater in China. And he was basically forced to stay down there by Mars itself. All the blood magic had been placed within John, so Maflek was looking for John in order to get it back out again, in order to head back up to Mars to do what he can. But because of what he saw, John decided that all of his power, everything there was too much, so he split himself. He split his own soul into the 4 different pieces, because he figured Malaflak's looking for him. It should be harder to find if you put him into 4 different pieces. So at that point, we see that the Child of Mars is like, okay, this is the second chance. This is what we've got here. And Mr. Biscuits comes up and says, hey, Child, you can free the people of Mars, right? Because they can do better. I mean, look at me, for example. And Mr. Biscuits finally takes off his mask that we haven't seen him take off since the beginning, where he was horribly disfigured. But this time around, he's like, look, I'm not misshapen anymore. I'm normal again. And he looks straight up like the handsome Squidward meme. And they're all just standing around, just like, please let the refugees pass. We can do better. And then Mr. Biscuits gets stabbed from the back by a giant blade. It's Malaflak, and he is like, ha-ha, yes, open all the barriers, let the blood magic portals open up, and I will sacrifice Earth as our cosmic sacrifice. Malaflak is Mars now. So Mr. Biscuits might be dead. That's depressing. I don't like that thought. No, yeah, I mean, it's a good explanation. I'm down with it. Like, in this issue specifically, I don't have any negatives. Like, it's a solid book. It's probably, I would say, 7.5, maybe even up to the 8, because a lot of the art is good. I'm just feeling like in the context of the book, there could have been a bit more before this. This feels like the sort of thing that's just a little bit too late for me. Obviously, there were hints of, like, obviously this was John's choice to split himself up and all that sort of stuff, but the idea that it was Mars itself that was like, no, I'm ending this planet because you all suck, it's a good message, and I think that could have been something we could have been leaning on a little bit more here, because I don't feel like I fully got that from the rest of the book. So overall, I think I will still give this one an 8. Just placement wise, like, you know, there was an issue of this, oh no, sorry, it was reversed. There was an issue of JLA that was hinting at this book, that was doing something specifically to, like, say, oh, hey, the Martian Manhunter book's a thing. Even then, I feel like the timeline's a little bit weird, because, like, in the context of the DC universe, John has been a hero for a long time. It's not like he showed up on the planet and then immediately split himself. Or maybe he did. Maybe there were 5 parts of him. But then why would he step into the particles? So, nah, I got no answers here. This is a confusing book. It's good, but it's a confusing book. Dr. Fate number 10, written by Paul Levitz, art by Sonny Liu. So last issue, Khalid was coming in to try to save a bunch of protesters that were arrested by an Egyptian consulate down from a basement that it turns out the guards is like one human, but also a bunch of Roman centurions, and ghosts of them, to be precise. So as he comes down, he's like, all right, that's weird. But the human guard yells out, stop him. He's the one who freed the other demonstrators. So they all start trying to attack him, and he's like, they're ghosts. What can they do? But he gets slashed by one of their swords, and Nabu's like, watch out for that. He's like, cool, can you heal me? And he's like, nope. And he's like, all right, well, you're just totally useless. I guess I got to do this myself. So he uses his powers to collapse the ceiling in, thinking it'll crush the ghosts, because if they can hurt him, he can hurt them. Nope, they just stand there. They're totally fine. And he's like, all right, well, this seems a bit unfair. So he goes over to the prisoners and he's like, come with me. It's not your fate to be prisoners. And they're like, okay, well, you got to get us out of the cage. And he's about to do something, but then he gets grabbed by one of the Egyptian guys. Oh, but sorry, I jumped ahead in the book significantly. These are not Roman centurions. That comes later. These are Egyptian guys. So as he is punching these guys, or is getting punched by these guys, they have a bunch of spears aimed at him. And it seems like that's the end of him. So we cut over to his parents, and Aquila is there. Obviously, she was freed earlier on. And they're like, hey, you're always welcome here. It's so awful that you had to go through that, but it's cool that you were saved by somebody. And Aquila's like, yeah, I just was hoping that Khalid would be here, because I really wanted to talk to him about some stuff and whatever else. And she's like, oh yeah, he's with you in spirit. I'm sure he would have joined the protest if he could. And the dad's like, oh yes, his spirit is quite pure after all. So we go back to the fight, and as he is about to get hit by a bunch of stuff, he realizes, wait a minute, I can phase through things. I'll just phase through the floor. So he goes down a bit further, and as he goes down, he sees how busy the underground of, I think we're in New York, is, and he's like, oh, Jesus, yeah, this is crazy. No wonder it takes so many, they have to dig so many holes to fix things. And as he goes down, he somehow comes to the realization that light is what is necessary to defeat these spirits. They thrive in shadow. So as he comes back up, he is inside the jail cell with the rest of the guys. And the guards just walk right through the bar doors, and they're like, oh, there will be no escape. And he's like, you're right, for you. And so he causes this massive light surge, which causes them all to fizzle away. And the other people are like, wow, that was incredible, but do you have super strength? Because we need someone to bend open these bars. That's important. He's like, no, don't have that, but I can find a way out of this. But then the other guard's just like, nah, you're going to find yourself dead. So we then go to, God, I can never remember her name. I couldn't remember the other one at first. Now I can't remember hers. The girlfriend. And she's trying to text Khalid saying, hey, I'm at school. I overheard Professor talking about getting you suspended from the course because you haven't been showing up. You need to get here now. And we see the professor is talking with the dean and is saying like, oh, he had such good promise. I'm so disappointed. Well, it's quite a shame. And she's like, oh God, Khalid, where are you? So as fate faces down the general, the guy who's holding them all hostage is just like, oh, I have faced down death itself, general. You really think that gun's going to do anything? And he fires off a bunch of shots. It would hit the protesters, but Khalid catches all the bullets, and he's like, you're a worm and you deserve to be treated as such. So he calls a bunch of electrical cables, wrap around the general, ends up electrocuting him. He seems to be alive, but, questionable. So he's like, all right, maybe, I don't have super strength, but maybe I could just do something else. And so he uses his powers to warp the bars, lets all the protesters out. He's like, hey, I phased down here. I don't actually know if there are any stairs to get you guys up. Do you guys know about that? And they're like, yeah, there's some stairs over here. He's like, cool, get on up them. Go ahead, get out of here. So they all run their way up. A couple of security guards are like, where'd you kids come? What? So, but they make their way out to freedom. And finally, the security guard grabs hold of Fate, and he's just like, this is a consulate. It's a diplomatic territory. You can't just come in here. And he's like, nobody can stop Fate. So he gets out anyway. However, before he's able to get out, he's told to halt by something. We then cut over to Aquila one more time. She's trying to text the rest of the group. The rest of the group is saying, yeah, something just freed us. We think it's this guy with a gold hat and all that. And she's like, guy with a gold hat. Maybe that's the same guy who helped me. And Khalid's parents are like, hey, Aquila, you good? And she's like, yeah, I gotta go. I gotta meet up with my group. They all got out of jail. Bye. So she takes off, and the parents are like, oh man, she's so upset. Like, shouldn't she be happy that her friends are safe? And just like, yeah, but there's something else going on. Something about Khalid. I don't know. He's starting to remind me of my uncle. Have I ever told you about my uncle? And the husband's just like, all right, enough of that. You've told me before. Let's get out of here. And she's like, all right, time to feed the cat. So this is the part where Fate gets caught by some Roman centurions. And he's like, all right, don't know why you're here, but I know how to take care of ghosts now. So he does the light thing again. But this time it doesn't work. And as he's grabbed by the centurions, Fate, Nabu, tells him, hey, you will find the answers within. And he's like, all right, let me check that out. So he searches within himself, and we get this trippy-ass panel of not only his father's history with all the ancient Egyptian, like, stuff like that going back farther and farther, but we also see his mother's side of history, things with, like, Germany and colonial ages and stuff like that. And he's like, what is this? Is this a hole through reality? Time travel? What's happening here? I have no idea what's going on. But as he ends up phasing through the floor, he ends up a couple layers down. When he wakes back up, the centurions are there. They grab him once more. And I'm just going to say the ghost of Caesar shows up. Great Caesar's ghost says, render him unto me. And that's that. If we don't have a Great Caesar's Ghost next issue, I'm going to be super upset. Nope, never mind. It is literally the name of the issue. 10 out of 10. Yeah, no, it's good. It's fine. I think I can't even remember what happened last issue in terms of like what he did with his power set, but I remember being more impressed with it. The idea that we were slowly just building this up of like, no, he knows what he's doing. We're taking steps forward. We're treating this like it's an actual hero thing rather than just a bumbling kid. And I like that. I was good with that. This one, I don't know. It's falling back into its old patterns, and that's something that I had a problem with, is the idea that the magic, the fate element of it is so nebulous and so able to be changed to whatever it needs to be, that it doesn't feel like there's any set guidepost, any set goalpost that we're moving towards. Anytime that he does something, for instance, with the light, it's like, okay, cool, he's figured out something new with his powers. But then we get a different set of ghosts and the powers don't work the same way anymore, and it's like, what are we doing? Why did we spend the time saying that he figured it out if it's not going to work on the very next thing that fits the same criteria? So I guess I'm just hoping, I know it doesn't make sense to ask for rules for magic because that's not what this is about. He's very much supposed to be nebulous. I guess I just wish for a little bit of consistency. That's the thing. I don't need rules. I just need to be consistent. So this one, 7. It's fine. It's good. It's just not blowing me back or anything like that. There does seem to be a different art style in next issue that looks a little bit more cartoonish. I might be a bit more into that, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, 7 for this. Batman and Robin Eternal number 24, written by Snyder, Tynion, and Orlando, art by Alvaro Martinez. So this issue we pick up at an Arctic temple where, of course, Mother has set up base. Dick Grayson has arrived, and all over the comms, everyone's like, Jesus Christ, this isn't going well. Dick, I hope that you're where you need to be, man. We need your help. And he's like, everyone just keep going. We can't let her win. And we get a montage of everyone around the world doing their best to fight. We do get people that I didn't know were initially involved. For instance, Talon is there. I guess he just pops up as a Tynion creation, and some random-ass member of Spiral. Maybe a couple Spiral members also. But they're all having a tough time. So we then cut over to Midnighter, who essentially donned his outfit, and he's just like, oh, Midnighter, I need a sit rep, what's up? And he's like, oh, well, I'm not bored. We see Red Robin specifically as starting to use the doors as like portals from the video game portal, where he's using it to like build up momentum and be able to get out of reach of the kids. And then Midnighter's like, oh, I'm impressed. The kids are finally getting creative with him. We then go over to Red Hood, and he's like, yeah, that sounded super impressive, Tim, over the comms. No one could see you do it, though. But he does something similar of redirecting a kid's momentum through one of the doors and using it to knock him out. And he's like, yeah, see, Midnighter, that's how you do it. And he's like, yeah, Red Hood, that's how you do it. I would, however, take his kneecaps out 2 blocks away. So Dick is like, all right, Midnighter, well, that's why you're not part of the fight here. And then Cullen comes in carrying some food, but the only thing Midnighter has in his apartment is peanut butter. So it's just peanut butter, like shaped in a somewhat interesting way. And he's like, yeah, fair enough. So Cullen's like, look, I hear everyone calling in. I know we're not doing great, but everyone still is calling in. So that's something, except for Harper. Is she doing okay? Cut to Harper in Mother's care. She wakes up on a bed, very ornate looking bed, and Mother comes in carrying some hot chocolate. And Harper's just like, shut up. No, I don't want to hear any of it. Where's Cassandra? What did you do to her? And Mother's like, doesn't matter. Like, take a look at this. And she pulls up like little screen displays of all the Bat family doing their fightings. And just like, look at this. The whole world is becoming better. And Harper's like, there's just kids. You made them killers. And she's like, yes, but it was necessary. And then she explains her own backstory, saying like, I went through so much worse than they did. All this. Everyone around me died except for me. And because of that, I was strong. I endured the attack. Like, this is a horrible world, and I will not let them suffer through it unprepared. And I mean, look at you. Like, Batman was supposed to make you better, and look what happened to you. And Harper literally points out, like, you're the one who did this to me. You're the one who caused this to happen. And he's like, yes, but only because I was told Batman would be the one that would pick up the pieces, that he would make you into the greatest Robin of them all. And look at what he did. He forced you into this horrible life without anything to prepare you for it. So, that's on him. So he then basically says, like, look, it's not too late for you. I see how talented you are. All you have to do is cut your previous ties. You take the power into your own hand. You can join me in the new world. What do you say? And she hands her the bluebird mask, and Harper puts it on. We then see that Dick is being attacked by a bunch of drones or something like that, or at least they're all firing out of the temple, and Grayson has to watch it happening. Just be like, all right, hey, everyone, Mother's got some air support coming in. You might want to pay attention to that. However, he sees a giant jet just crash into the ice temple right on the runway, and a escape pod launches out, and from the escape pod comes Azrael. And Grayson's like, who the hell are you? I haven't even met you yet. And he's like, I am Azrael. I've come to take Mother's life and then my own. Join my crusade. And Grayson's like, no. Then you shall die. So they start fighting with each other. And they're on the same side. They both want to get Mother, but Grayson points out she needs to face the consequences for her actions. I can't have you killing her. And Azrael's like, nope, she's got to die. She will face consequences in the afterlife. So they continue fighting. Mother, however, I guess is just watching from upstairs. She's looking over the balcony, just being like, oh my God, look at them. Those poor children just fighting each other. And Harper's like, they're coming for you. What do you mean poor children? And he's like, yeah, well, be able to stop me if they could, but like, we're already too deep in. There's no way they can. So she lights up something that seems to cause like a big barricade of ice and snow. And then we see holograms of all these different orphans. And she's like, my big plan is all the kids of the world, but I understand that sometimes you got to go through the old methods. I killed David Kane. He's no longer an orphan, but I did have a bunch of backups that used similar methods, and now they're all out there, and they're going to be fighting against the Bat family. And we get to see that. We get a montage of all the different Bat family members fighting against these new orphans that are attacking. Midnighter then finally stands up. He's like, all right, well, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. We're now going to lose this. Cullen, I'm stepping out. You need to monitor everything here. And he's like, what? No, I can't do that. And he's like, nah, look, I've already got a computer in my head. I analyzed it. You're going to do fine. I'm going to, you're like your sister. You're doing great. So he makes a door. He goes over, talks to Stephanie Brown, who's watching over Scarecrow. And just like, hey, spoiler, you got to go to Tokyo. You do that. I'll stay here with Crane. So head out there. And he's like, all right, about time. So he opens a door just for Stephanie. Stephanie just immediately kicks this orphan in the back of the head. They start fighting with each other, and the orphan's like, oh, you're no orphan. You don't have the strength that I do. And she's like, yeah, that doesn't count for everything. And she uses her technique to outdo the orphan and take it down. So Harper's walking with Mother down a hallway, and it's like, look, so much has been standing in the way of who you should have been. You have a weak brother, a spineless father. Gotham itself just sucks. I can help you. I can make you something better here. Like, you know who killed your mother, and yet you still let her live. So Mother does some big thing of like having Cassandra descend down from the rafters. She's in a straitjacket, all chained up. And it's like, she is the one who killed your mom. She set you down your current path. And again, Harper's like, on your orders, you are literally the one who caused this. And she's like, I did it to help you. Cassandra's the one that didn't follow through properly. And she's the one who's been haunting you now this whole time. So, If you want this to be a thing, this is where you need to take back what Batman stole. You need to make your life your own. So take this knife. There's Cassandra. Cut your ties. And next issue has Harper standing over the dead bodies of Cassandra and Grayson. I wonder what she'll choose. If anybody didn't know, that's sarcasm. Of course she's not going to kill them. So I liked the book overall. I like Mother having this last little, like, you know, join me together, we can rule the galaxy as father and son sort of thing. Like, I like that aspect of it. That's all fine. Even the Cullen stuff, the Midnighter stuff, even like the Grayson and Azrael stuff, all good. My issue lies in the montage fight sequences. Because, and this is important here, the fight feels so big that it doesn't matter. Like, once it hits a certain scale, it ceases to have stakes. Like, if you're telling me that these 12, 14, whatever number of cities around the world are all going to have all of their people dead, all their children are going to fall prey forever, like, the stakes no longer matter. And I know in a superhero book you expect it all to be reversed either way. Like, ignoring that, even ignoring the idea of that, the stakes feel so big that on top of not being able to follow each individual character, I think that's the bigger part of it, is that I know every character is going to be okay because we haven't focused on any of them enough for it to make it feel like they won't be okay. It's an economy of scale sort of thing. So I guess my biggest problem there is, like, you make this fight feel so big, but it doesn't feel like anyone's actually in danger. That's my problem. Everything else, all the smaller elements, I'm down with. I think it's all being done very well here. It's just like, yeah, okay, we got to have a final battle that feels truly epic in scale. Did ya? Couldn't we have had a thing where, like, it's the countdown timer and we're just trying to do it before she does this stuff? But nope, that's not where the book went. So 7.5. It's fine. It's good. We've only got like 2 issues left, so I'm sure we'll wrap this thing up pretty satisfactorily. But yeah, I don't know. I wish there was just a little bit more tension on, like, is Talon going to make it? No. I mean, yes, he will, but, like, there's no tension to it because we haven't focused on Talon. He's not important. And that's it. That is all the comics that came out from DC Comics this March 16th, 2016. And next week, it's another normal week. 13 comics to go through. A couple of number 50s in there. Big news with the Batman book, because, of course, Batman number 50s gotta be a big deal. But more importantly, for anybody who is still listening to this bit, the week following is a 5th week. It is the last 5th week we will have in this show. And there's only 4 books. I can't make a show out of 4 books. I'm going to do a show with only 4 books, but I can't do it with 4 books alone. So, what I need from you, the people, my dearest, dearest audience, all like 3 of you, I need you to ask me things. I have put this call out there before. I know the response is typically minimal, which is to say, I have heard crickets louder than my audience, but I need this, okay? We're at the end of the show, episode 239. I need some questions, or even just comments. Just play ball with me, man. Come on. So yeah, that's coming up. Let me tell you what's coming out next week. Next week we have, in mildly alphabetical order, Batman, Cyborg, Deathstroke, Grayson, Harley Quinn, Justice League 3001, Secret 6, Suicide Squad, Most Wanted, Deadshot and Katana, Superman, Lois and Clark, Teen Titans, We Are Robin, Wonder Woman, and our weekly series that has not yet ended, Batman and Robin Eternal. That actually does wrap up on that 5th week, so be sure to stay tuned for that if you've been paying attention. But anyway, like I said, give me some questions. Give me some things to do. I have something stupid and massive planned. It's so big that I genuinely don't know if I can pull it off. But I'm going to try my damnedest. So hopefully that'll all work out. But I need your questions to make it work. So, yeah. That's all. So if you have any questions about any of the comics that I have talked about this week, last week, any week at all, or not even questions, just comments, go ahead and put them down in the comment section down beneath this YouTube video. But if you are not watching the YouTube video, what's wrong with you? We've got an audio feed as well, and there are other places that you can comment as a subreddit and a Patreon and a Discord. What I have found, though, strangely enough, is Reddit / I just Google myself. I've commented in previous weeks how I've started doing that. And nothing new has popped up, but it's good to see the old still there, that people aren't deleting it out of shame. Thank you. That's how the PBS sign-off should go. Thank you for letting the checks clear. Viewers like you. Dun-dun-dun. Anyway, I am rambling now. I'm so tired, and I don't know why. I don't think I've slept well over the past, week, but here we are. I can make it up on the 4-book week. Don't judge me. All right, that's it for the show. Thank you very much for watching, listening, however it is consumed this podcast. Be sure to give it a positive interaction, though. After that stumbling and dropping it at the end there, I don't know why you would. But I'd appreciate it regardless. And always try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.